Hello one, hello all, and welcome once again back to the LPL English Twitch and YouTube channel for your one-stop shop of English coverage of the greatest region currently in the world, the LPL, that is raging through what might be one of the most fun playoff brackets once again happening in Split 2, and we are starting to knock off teams and saying sayonara for the rest of Split 2 here. Our next matchup, Anyone's Legend taking on LGD. I, of course, will be your play-by-play today, Slayer, the Slay side of our coin duo, Slayman Rocks. That being, of course, Super K-Man Rocks. Beside me, Encyclopedia of LOL Esports, blah, blah, blah. I don't got time for your normal intro here, K-Man. I'm just happy to be right beside you today and have the very important task of sending a team home from our playoffs.
Oh boy, is this a big one, Slayer. Both of these teams are in very, very different spots coming into this series, and I think that's what makes it so exciting. You're absolutely right. We do not have the time to go over all of our nicknames or all of the fun little caveats. There is so much to discuss when it comes to these two teams. One of them very much expecting to continue to push on and potentially be a threat to make MSI, and you know what? The other is looking at the landscape right now, the LPL, seeing all these upsets and saying, hey, why not us? Why can't we keep the train rolling, you know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, K-Man. And loyal viewers, maybe if you're not too attuned to our playoff bracket and you're like, why the hell is K-Man talking about huge upsets? I mean, maybe you're a little confused that AL is here. May I direct your attention to our future upper finals matchup that I dare any of you to show me factual proof that you had Top Esports WE as the matchup to send the first team in the LPL to MSI 2026.
I think everybody's bracket has been busted at this point. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. I don't think a lot of people were looking at Top Esports WE as a potential winners finals. I certainly don't think a lot of people were expecting JDG BLG down in lower bracket round 2. We've got so much chaos just around the LPL, even just the teams that are in it in the first place, you know, from the play-in stage. We've already had so many different upsets, and that's what makes something like today so exciting, because AL is a team that obviously on paper you're looking at them as a real threat to MSI, as a team that's clearly going to be, you know, one of the top teams to try and contend to make the finals here in the LPL. But in reality, there have been so many series that have already proved that the difference between a lot of these teams that we maybe counted out and the teams that we really believed in, that gap is not nearly as wide as we thought. AL especially is a team that definitely needs to show they can step up here today.
AL's definitely a team that has looked a lot different than their form, not just in Split 1, but I would say more importantly when comparing year to year, where they were at just a year ago. But of course, the roster, unlike many of our LPL rosters compared to last year, has stayed completely the same. Only the coaching staff has changed here, with Big Way replacing Tabe now on JDG, who, like you mentioned, K-Man, is in a very similar spot right now compared to Anyone's Legend in the bracket. But a team that a year ago was crowned LPL champions and would go on to have probably the best international showing an LPL team had all year long. And, well, K-Man, we'll get into it a lot more, but there's a lot of ways to figure out why AL, despite no roster changes, are in a much different form than that very glorious year ago.
Yeah, there are a lot of different things that I think you can point to. I think you can point to the meta shift. I think you can point to generally, you know, losing some of the coaching staff members. That's been very heavily discussed, I think, from a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to a lot of these players individually are underperforming. They are not living up to their own standard. They are not playing at the level that we know they can play at in terms of generating and capitalizing on early resource leads that they're able to get in these games. It just feels like something is off. The macro has not necessarily been there, and the aggression has not necessarily been there. The good thing about that is that there is room to go up. Right? Like, we know these players can be elite. We know that these players can step up in big moments. You have players like Tarzan, like Flandra, that have had so many playoff series where they found success. I'm certainly not going to be counting Anyone's Legend out. You just need to make sure that you start to see that progress come through.
Yeah, we talk even, you know, you mentioned it, right? It's Tarzan has been the best jungler in the world at points. Kyle has been endlessly compared to Keria at his peak when it comes to who are some of the premier supports that we have in the entire world, and then you mentioned Flandra as well. Yeah, so definitely don't want to ever count them out. But, K-Man, it's definitely our job, and I'm glad you're here alongside me. I'm mostly going to say your job, and I'm just here to kind of, you know, be the eye candy maybe, of why we feel like AL have struggled. And while the form is definitely a big thing to point out, and we'll get into that a lot more, the interesting take here is maybe how AL's game plan, which has relatively felt like stayed the same, has maybe faltered in a couple of ways and isn't something they can reliably go to and just crush a lot of their opponents. The point being here is how AL love to play for their side lane threats and pick potential. And when you look at the champions that AL have played in their 6 short games so far in the LPL playoffs, we're seeing a Tarzan at a super high rate of Vi play. He's played more Vi this split than I think I've seen him play in the 3 previous splits. He's got the Nocturne. We've obviously seen the TF top come out from Flandre. Birdall on the other side, funnily enough, also plays the TF top. Shen, Vayne, these are side lane picks. Even the Ryze and Ashe, who are all about map pressure and pick potential. This is the huge crutch of AL. It's been their crutch that hasn't necessarily been that reliable this year compared to many splits past.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that when you look back at where this team found a lot of success last year, it was opening up the map and being super proactive, out macroing a lot of teams, having better mid to late games than them. That's not happened this year. I mean, the meta is very different just in general, but this team has attempted to try and win everywhere across the map. And one of the things for me that really separated AL last year from everybody else was they were more than the sum of their parts. They were a team that I think you could, like, look at the players on the team and talk about the skill level and the talent that they had, but really, AL was a culmination of what all 5 players could do together. Right now, it feels like you're hoping and praying for a hero to step up every single game for AL rather than the team, you know, kind of behaving as one cohesive unit. I think these side lane comps are definitely a part of that, where you do need these side laners to get incredibly fed. You need Shanks and you need Flandre to be in really good spots. You need the bot lane to be more more powerful in the 2v2, and Tarzan can then take advantage of it. But it also takes away some of the things they did really well, which is fighting as a group and fighting as a unit.
Fighting as a group, in particular the way that WE completely dismantled AL. WE's entire strategy through their awesome run to upper finals has been 5 members strong, nobody can beat us, and AL were definitely one of the teams that got ran over much more by that strategy than I would even say BLG did. And it was partly because they drafted to play a style adverse to it, and it just didn't work whenever they decided to play as 5. But you may see one member of AL off your screen currently, and that's the other point that we find really intriguing here, K-Man, is that maybe a lot of the keys, especially to the early game of AL's map control success, was Kyle, and unfortunately, you mentioned the meta, he's maybe been the one that's gotten hit hardest playstyle-wise on the shifting support meta.
That's really the thing. When I look at the big difference between AL last year and AL this year, it's not just, oh, you know, the meta has shifted and champions have changed. The identity of AL has had to shift entirely out of what it was previously because they do not feel they can survive in the bot lane 2v2. We're seeing things like Nami, Lulu, Seraphine. I've been very vocal throughout multiple different channels in this split where it's like you kind of need to learn how to play enchanters. AL is the exception to that because this team, when they're at their best, functions almost exclusively off of Tarzan and Kyle being a duo throughout a majority of the mid-game. One of the things that I've really not liked about this team is they've tried so hard to make a bot lane 2v2 feel proactive and to allow these side laners to be more effective in the mid-game by getting Hope into better spots. In reality, when they found the most success this split, they're going completely away from the meta. They are still playing a lot of these engagers. They are still playing a lot of these roamers, and they're saying it doesn't really matter. We're never going to be like that top-tier team playing these 2v2 bot lanes that are going to try and get early leads. They need to get out on the map and open things up. And Kyle, to me, is by far the most important player. That was especially apparent when, quite frankly, in that WE series, he got completely outplayed by Arha. Like it just was. Completely. It was not close. And it was Kyle on a lot of these enchanters. I need to see him get back to his comfort zone because without that AL's not going to be an elite team if they can't get their support into great spots.
Last note I'll have for this graphic before we move on: Rel, Braum, Nautilus. None of those 3 champions have we seen Kyle go to in this playoff so far. We'll see if things change here, but enough talk about anyone's legend. Let's go to the more positive side of our matchup. That being LGD, who are completely playing with house money, if you like to use that metaphor, being this far into the playoffs. And it has once again been really just everybody showing up in different spots. There's a lot of players that I would like to highlight that have really stepped up, especially in that Thunder Talk series. But again, just like the last time Slayman Rocks rocked up to the LGD playoff series, Tangwan and Birdall have been such a strength for this team, not just in their play, but the creativity that they bring to the Rift. Even if the Scion mid-swap didn't necessarily work out as well as, well, maybe not we were thinking, K-Man, but hey, the creativity is definitely there. They are a nightmare to try and draft against right now.
I mean, they're certainly going to try some things, and I think that's what makes them so exciting to watch, is they are also very side lane oriented in terms of getting leads onto their solo laners and trying to push that out. Someone like Hung in particular is going to play really aggro in the early game, try to get those two into really great positions to carry. It's really going to be up to them in order to capitalize on getting those resources. This team has actually been pretty okay in the early game, but things fall apart pretty quickly if they start to lose some leads. I need to see them come out hot, because if they don't, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to out-macro a team like AL.
And with LGD coming through here, a new team with some players that haven't necessarily gotten to play on such a big stage, want to spend a little bit of time highlighting YCX, who I really respect for being able to be vulnerable, emotional, and talk about just how much this has meant to him to get to this point. This quote is the one that really sat with me, K-Man, to just really pull it on the heartstrings. I know we talked a little bit about YCX before, but these are the cool stories you get when you have so many new players reaching career highs that they dreamed of getting to before.
And let's talk about YCX's journey, at least for a second here. I mean, this was a player that was stuck in Tier 2 for so long. He started playing right around the tail end of 2019, 2020, in terms of being able to get himself into kind of the overall scene in the LDL. And he was there for 5 years in a row, just grinding it out over and over and over again, hoping for a chance. Finally gets one on a very, LDL-focused LGD rebuild. And while it's okay at first, you start to see the flashes, you're not really sure he's ever going to find that same level of success. Here we are in 2026. I mean, we're actually talking 7 years later, and he's starting in a playoff series against anyone's legend. He's guaranteed top 6 in the LPL. He's going to be in Group Ascend in the next split. And he's a huge reason why they got here. This Blitzcrank game against Thundertalk in game number 5, this was huge. It won them the series, and he's been a true important member of why they're here in the first place in general. I think without YCX, without the pressure he adds in the support position, it becomes a lot more difficult for LGD to have their style, and you just have to be really excited for him because of the journey it took to get there.
And I always love when we could have moments, K-Man, where we can kind of humanize these players, because it's easy to get caught up in the fact that, we have teams that we cheer so heavily for. We want to see them succeed. So when they don't, your innate reaction is to kind of just, obviously be very negative. We can be very critical of players that don't step up to the highest highs, don't reach the metrics we expect them to when you talk about players like you mentioned, coming from the LDL, stepping into the LPL. But these are humans, too, that are even more driven to accomplish the things you want them to tenfold, right? So it's always important to highlight, hey, listen, the human aspect of players like YCX. And regardless of how the rest of LGD's playoff run goes, I'm just excited to see what he has in store for those Group Ascend matches, playing on the biggest stage that the LPL has to offer. And him and alongside LGD, they've certainly earned that right.
More than earned it. They have been phenomenal, quite frankly, through what we've seen so far. You can talk about how they needed 5 games to beat Thundertalk. Thundertalk was an actual threat to a couple of teams in the playoffs. They took a game off of JDG in round number 1. They obviously took down Invictus Gaming on their way here. I mean, we can try and say that that's not a massive, win for them, and I understand why that might be the idea, but this LGD team is one you cannot take lightly. They are absolutely good enough to take at least a couple of games off of basically anybody if you're not prepared for them because of their aggressive style. And I imagine AL, a team that often does not underestimate their opponents, is going to be very aware of that here today.
Very aware indeed. We'll hope to see, LGD treated with a certain degree of respect by AL. Because what was interesting about when we saw Top Esports play LGD, yes, on paper, it looked like a 3-0, but something we really took away from that series, and actually we really felt like why Top Esports were able to get the sweep was just how much respect we saw them pay to LGD game to game. It's very easy to see teams get trapped, like we saw some of our former Group Ascend teams do going into that play-in stage, and not respect their opponents to get ran over. That was not the case for Top Esports. LGD are garnering respect from the best of the best here in LPL, and now, in pure cinematic fashion, they will take the stage here once again when nobody was really expecting to get this far. Here is LGD playing for a potential top 4 spot in the LPL.
I mean, that's it, right? Like, you win this, you're top 4. Like, top 4, let's put that into perspective. If this were the end of the year, that's a potential world spot. That's where LGD are kind of knocking on right now. That's how close they are to potentially getting in to a big situation for themselves. LGD are really not that far out from being a team that can contend to try and make a regional qualifier or anything like that, and we know these players have the ability to step up. LGD as an org, I know that we don't quite have that same reverence that maybe we had for the org, 7, 8 years ago at this point, but multiple-time Worlds representative from the LPL, and even recently, this is a team that's constantly counted out, an org that's constantly talked about as if they're going to be one of the weakest in the LPL, and they never are. They always overperform year over year. This has just been the biggest of the overperformances. Really excited to see what they can do on stage here today.
And then here comes their challenger with a lot more pressure imminent, looking to reach the same highs from just a year ago. Anyone's Legend taking to the stage here. Mandatory for this roster to get back to top 4. And, of course, their aspirations are much higher than that as they'll look to repeat their journey back to MSI in a very long gauntlet that starts with the next step, of course, being this matchup against LGD.
I mean, I'm sure MSI last year left a little bit of a sour taste in their mouths. They had the ability and the chance to really push through in that tournament and be a real threat to win it all. I kind of felt the same at Worlds. They came in as the most successful team internationally from the LPL last year, and they were ready to repeat it with all 5 members. It's not exactly been a great start for them, but let's not forget, I mean, MSI was their first international tournament last year as well. They didn't make first stand. They weren't a team that was going to that tournament and performing there. It took a little bit of time for them to really get to their top-end level. I mean, we've seen crazier things than an AL lower bracket run to get into finals. I mean, that would be something that wouldn't even become, close to the top of the LPL list of craziest outcomes. I'm expecting this team to show up here today and to really prove that they deserve to be considered a threat.
Captains with ceremonious fist bump there, Xiaoya and Shanks. Yeah, why can't it be AL? Why can't it be anybody in this Split 2 playoffs? I am officially claiming it, K-Man. Split 2 is the playoff bracket of anybody. And we saw it last year. We're going to see it this year. Let's, of course, though, quickly go, before we get into Game 1 draft talk, towards our head-to-head here, where we want to spotlight the mid laners, because we feel like Tongguan was the player of the series for LGD's win against Thunder Talk, and then Shanks has been one of the more consistent guys on this team. He's had some pretty big peaks, but K-Man, I know this matchup, as your historian brain is firing on all cylinders, really kind of warms your heart for a couple of different reasons.
I mean, it's just so fun, right? Both Shanks and Tongguan coming into very perilous situations on massive organizations when they first joined the LPL. Shanks on WE, Tongguan on RNG, and both of them finding the most amount of success that they've had throughout their careers on orgs that maybe you don't consider to be quite as big. They're thrust into the spotlight, but with teams like WE and RNG not finding the most amount of success, it's anyone's Legend, LGD, that are able to unlock the most out of both of these players. Shanks, obviously, that consistent threat in the mid lane, really, really good in this meta, and Tongguan has really made a name for himself. He has been the best player on LGD in this playoff run and in this regular season. He's finally starting to find his form, just like Shanks did a couple of years ago on Anyone's Legend when he first joined the org. I'm very excited to see these two match up, and I'm hopeful we're going to get a lot of action in the mid lane here today.
And K-Man, the most fun part about going down that, kind of history path with you is the fact that these two players with these organizations, and now with Tongguan, locked into a top 6 finisher this split, it may not have been the orgs that they expected to reach new highs on, but they are here at this point. Obviously, Shanks, maybe not right now, but like we've already talked about, endlessly getting that deep into an international tournament and winning the LPL with Anyone's Legend definitely shows how this org has really become his home. And, well, Tongguan definitely has been a big part of LGD's huge run like we talked about endlessly. Let's pivot, though, of course, K-Man, into our Game 1 draft here. As it goes live, I timed that perfectly on purpose. Thank you, LPL. LGD on your blue side. AL will have your first pick. So the classic wonky first selection draft we have underway, and already your meta staples coming off the board in the jungle and support position, and K-Man's favorite, Orianna.
Yeah, you got to take the Orianna away. Notably, we had that side lane graphic, and Ryze is available. It's Shanks' most played champion by far. It's actually really commonly banned, but it's actually going to be the Varus for Hope, another champion. It's actually the most banned against Anyone's Legend across this year. Hope very much known for his Varus early on in his career when he was on JD Gaming and, even WE for a bit. He was finding a lot of success on that champion. Gives you a lot of ability to play safe in the early laning phase, and actually does kind of open up the possibility for Kyle to be on a playmaker like a Bard in this game if they wanted to go that route. The Nico as well. It leaves Rumble Ryze or Rumble Jarvan or really whatever you want to go for on the other side. So definitely a little bit scary, but I can understand the idea.
Maybe the Trundle, too. Yeah, we've consistently seen this duo really crop up, and Trundle's priority really skyrocket in the playoffs. Again, the point I always love to make with Trundle, one of the most OP basic abilities you have in the game with that pillar, just such overpowered terrain usage. But now we arrive on the Tarzan predicament, potentially, with him hovering the Fury. He's always been a two-fold kind of player so far in his up and down split. He goes all index carry sometimes, usually in the Fury, the Kiana he's tapped into a couple times, or he plays that much more supportive role. But we'll leave Tarzan off for a bit here, as it wasn't the first selection there came in, but here's an AL staple. They're already showing that they're looking to play the map here. Rise, and you mentioned the Varus could be left on the bot side, so we're going right back to the classic AL strategy, but finally, we get a team fighter coming through here for Flandra. The Scion was just looking too good.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, you tried to dissuade the Scion by picking the Trundle on the other side for LGD, and Flandra was like, nah, it doesn't matter. Who cares? You can steal my stats. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm still going to be a big nuisance to try and stop this Rumble from getting fed in the laning phase. It does make some sense, but really, this is opening up a carry jungle opportunity. The Anivia being hovered and the Anivia being locked in, that has been the staple counter pick to Rise over the course of this split. Clearly, it's what LGD were comfortable playing because they left up that Rise. Shanks is most played champion, so we have a very clear identity already for both of these teams. You have a lot of terrain control coming in from LGD. They want to fight in these small areas around Trundle Pillar, Equalizer, Anivia Wall. I mean, they have so many different ways to control objectives if they do get there, but the team fighting ability from AL is going to be massive, and they're already starting to play into the idea that we talked about in the pre-show with opening up the map with that Rise Realm Warp.
I'm still terrified of getting... I made the pillar point. Shout out to Anguan for allowing me to do this. The next best terrain ability is, of course, the Anivia Wall. So we're going to have pillars, we're going to have walls, we're going to have equalizers. Yeah, I like that point you made. If LGD can get first set up at these important Drakes, potential Baron fights as well, I feel like it is very impossible, even to force a Scion in, who can easily run into either of those terrain abilities. We'll have to watch out for that. Junglers coming off the board here for LGD so far, as AL look to target onto Xiaoya's champion pool. Like that approach from AL, I think YCX has a pretty flexible pool at this point in a game one. So let's try and get Xiaoya a little bit uncomfortable, and I'll make the note now since it's a best of 5. Just always watch out for the Draven. It didn't go banned.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to watch out for Xiaoya's Draven. It is his signature champion. I wouldn't expect it here in game 1. This would be a very, very greedy game to draft Draven in, specifically this early with so many answers on the bot side still left to be picked, but it's definitely possible. Couple AD carries that are left up. Yunara, I think, is kind of the main one for me. Yunara Lulu would be something that would be pretty easily lockable here if LGD just want more damage. Ezreal as well, very safe on the bottom side. Jhin kind of fills a very similar role to the Ezreal. If you want to go that route, just play weak side bot. You understand that you have a Rumble on the top side. You don't necessarily need that like strong 2v2 immediately. You can pair this up with Karma, or you can pair it up with something like the Nautilus to give you more engage down the stretch, because Trundle's not exactly the most consistent form of engage. Saying that, AL might just take it away. Bard could be an option for them as well. I would be stunned if it's not Nefiri plus some sort of engage playmaker for AL. That feels like an insta-lock for them here.
You know, I know the hover convo. I don't really care. I'm throwing that out the window. Just give Kyle the Nautilus, man. Let's get this guy back to playmaking. We really emphasized it in the pre-show if you missed it. I feel like it is the spot to finally do it. Bard also works as well. Yeah. There we go. All right. Kyle is not on Enchanter duty. This feels like a more confident AL draft, but they definitely have to get running early. And that tandem you talked about, Tarzan and Kyle, this is, in the current meta, the best two champions I feel like to fit that bill in that strategy. So we'll see AL go for that, as YCX will gobble up the Nautilus, which I also like. LGD, they've brought a lot of their crowd control through the bot side here, and there's a ton of great setup here for the Jhin. I actually like the Jhin into this game.
I really like the Jhin. I think it's perfect for exactly what they're doing, which is essentially saying we want YCX to be this big playmaker that can roam around the map to match Kyle. We don't want to give over that pressure for free. We're going to be playing a lot of these 3v3 skirmishes around the middle of the map because we have that counter pick in our eyes in the mid lane. It is really important for the jungler to be in a spot where he can skirmish in this game. If Hung gets behind at all against Tarzan, this game becomes so much more difficult because he's really the only way you can take down the Scion in the later part of the game. Very possible for them to do so. AL just have so much comfort. This is exactly the kind of draft that you would have wanted them to take in game number 1. Basically, every player is playing their signature champion, and I think they're definitely going to use that pretty well in the opening stages here to try and get themselves into 5v5 teamfight positions.
Definitely a draft from either side that we expected. And like you mentioned, K-Man, always game ones, vital in a best of 5 for a multitude of reasons, starting off with the right foot forward. But now that we've seen the draft, I think it really even further emphasizes how much a game 1 win would mean when you look at the future of this series and the fact that all 10 of these champions are going to come off of the board here. Anyone's Legend, all the pressure on them to try and make a lower bracket run when they are expected to be competitive, one of the competitors of our split with this roster, repeating from 2025. But LGD, I love the statement, K-Man, you ran with. In this Split 2 playoffs, why not LGD? Let's see if they can put the right foot forward here as we hit the Rift. Game 1, LGD, Anyone's Legend.
Some big cheers for Anyone's Legend coming out here in game number 1, but LGD fans still showing up. We definitely have quite a few. Yeah, exactly. You get 1 win under your belt if you're LGD in this series. I promise you that's going to be changing in terms of the cheers coming in. So very important for them. We're going to keep an eye. I imagine summoners are about to get blown very early here on the bot side. That's what you want to do is these 2 playmakers specifically. I think that there is a conversation generally about, oh, what bot lane pushes forward is... We get the traditional exchange early on here.
There you go.
I don't imagine Nautilus and Bard are going to be here for very long. I think that this is going to be a bot lane that very quickly devolves into AD carries pushing into each other while potentially the junglers take more of a spotlight as they path down to the bottom side.
I was all for the fact that we got the enchanters coming back in, but I missed our supports being able to roam. Man, nice little walk there from Kyle to not get hit by the Deadly Flourish. The Dredge line still lands here for YCX, so it's a decent chunk trade. But I didn't realize when we had all this 2v2 prio how much I'd actually miss our supports getting out and roaming the map. I'm sure our jungler players also missed having that buddy next to them. And speaking on our junglers, well, both are playing a similar style, just trying to burn through their first clear as quickly as possible and farm up to get to a pretty comfortable spot here. Neither of them are super reliant on getting their ultimates. It's definitely helpful, but skirmishing is the lead that both these guys need to find with the Trundle and Neferi matchup.
Definitely. I mean,
oh my god, Shanks is going to drop.
Trade early.
That's both sums off Shanks, just like that.
That's a huge mistake from Shanks. I mean, he has to recognize that he's playing into Anivia. Like, worst case scenario there, you pop Egg. Like, that's the best possible outcome of that. I don't really understand why you're trading so aggro. This Ryze comes online really aggressively at level 6, obviously. But even before that, once you get that first back in, it becomes pretty safe to be able to at least farm out the laning phase. That's just a mistake that you can't really be making. That's a big summoner advantage, and now mid lane could be a priority for LGD moving forward.
Talked endlessly about how we expect these junglers to look to roam with their supports. That's a pretty consistent punish here as we do see Tarzan also looking to probably vie for that bot crab. He does get pushed off of it. Hung picks that one up, and now he's requiring Shanks to help cover for him. And hey, there we go, K-Man, just as we ordered. Kyle's right next to Tarzan, and I see on my map that YCX has decided to pass back up through the mid lane to get out onto the Rift here. So let's see. I'm curious to see if LGD can beat Anyone's Legend at their own game that they've been so successful over the last couple of splits doing.
It's going to be interesting to see. LGD are certainly throwing down the gauntlet in terms of trying to open up the map. For now, though, this is exactly why you pick something like Jhin on the bot side, Varus as well. Both of them incredibly safe. No actual threat as YCX going to walk up. Understands that his Anivia is a little bit stronger right now, and so feels very, very happy to try and punish Kyle here as we just get a little bit of damage. That's the portal combat that you mentioned coming down. Kyle's going to be fine.
That's a big win for YCX, though. I will say, comes out a bit ahead in that regard. Magical Journey was always going to be the protection there for Mr. Kyle, and now he'll have to make a more respectful, long wraparound walk back towards his AD carry. Mr. YCX will be spotted coming down the river here, so he'll pass the respect and back off. Both bot lanes are currently sitting on wards at the moment, so they'll get back into their situated 2v2s. And we see Birdall starting to accrue a bit more of an HP lead here into Flandre as he overheats, gets a ton of damage through those autos down. And, well, both solo lanes so far here for LGD looking good.
Yeah, LGD are doing a fantastic job of punishing these kind of scaling-oriented solo laners. The Scion will eventually become near unkillable for the Rumble, but he certainly isn't yet, and the Ryze obviously will eventually be able to open up the map more effectively than the Anivia will, but we're not at that level 6 power spike. This is the time of the game where it does feel like LGD are going to have the biggest advantage in terms of these laning phases. Once we start hitting level 6, it's going to be more difficult for them to make these same kinds of macro plays and, skirmish fights as long as they're not, super far behind. So it's really important for them to keep the pressure on. Tongyuan with a very big lead for himself in the mid lane, and no sums on Shanks, at least for a little bit, kind of delays the power spike that they were eventually going to play for.
Level 6 ultimates coming online for these mid laners. Equalizer, and of course that Glacial Storm available. First Dragon also has already been chilling on the Rift here, so just a matter of time about when we start having those Ryo conversations. You can see that Tarzan right now looking to try and, I believe, play for that second crab spawn here. Curious, I believe with the XP that should give him level 6, and it should give him a little bit of, giving it to him before Hung can get access to it here. So that does, make it a little bit of an interesting timer here for Mr. Tarzan, especially considering Hung is trying to path over there to get the access to the crab himself, but he's going to be too little too late. So call the pack is up and available here for Tarzan, as right on tote, Vladim's going to use the unstoppable onslaught, dive on top of Burnall, and he has to expend his flash.
I mean, it is Rumble Flash, but that is a big play made for AL. That's a lot of their early resources utilized to get Flash out of the top side. We'll see if they take advantage of it, because that is now their strong point of the map. Burnall even just gets to burn down Vlandra. YCX is here. This Scion's in a little bit of danger.
Kael rushing over to try and protect his top laner. Good flash away from the dredge line. Turns back with a decimating smash. Hung is in the area as well, so this is a full-blown 3v3. But like you pointed out, two of the ultimates off the board for AL's members is Shanks once again going very low with Tonguan, who has the safety of the egg and comes out just a couple of morsels ahead.
You can't be taking these aggressive trades as Ryze in the mid game. This is the one part of the game where you can't really be giving over that free pressure to Anivia. It's constantly delaying the amount of plays that this Ryze can make. Think if you had Realm Warp for a potential top lane counter engage on the top side there. It would have changed everything, and unfortunately for Shanks, he's just a little bit behind in tempo. We're showing the bot lane here, but both of these two are likely going to be a little bit passive in this game, especially in the early parts. They're going to be much more scaling oriented, but my eyes are now absolutely on these junglers. Hong has his level 6, and it's on cooldown, or it's off cooldown with Tarzan's ult on cooldown. I would imagine this is a big timer for the Trundle to potentially look on the bot side for a dragon take if they want to set up for it.
Looks like we're cruising towards a potential trade that we used to see when Grubs were first introduced, couple, about a season plus ago, where Grubs and First Rate come onto the Rift at the same time. 20 seconds out to the Grub spawn, so it's going to be up to these jugglers to try and figure out what the priorities lie for their opponent here. Right now, we're seeing both Tarzan and Hung clear out their respective bot sides. Let's see which one of them decides to path towards that first dragon or maybe towards those Grubs. In a game like this, definitely feels like AL, they may have the scaling factor came in, but the way they play, I feel like they would love the Grubs. LGD certainly want to get a hold of these, and, well, with the Trundle, yep, Hung's going to path right on towards them.
I actually think both teams really want Dragon in this game, if only for the fact that I think both of them want to set up. Yeah, you're true. No, I think both of them just want to set up for these fights, right? Like, I think when I think about the way that both of them want to play, the more you can force fights around these small objectives, the better. For now, that means Xiaoya's going to be in a little bit of danger under his own tower here.
All right, YCX is being zoned away by Tarzan and Kael. But all the while this is going on, Hung is getting Grubs for free. So AL need to make this play happen. Hound's Pursuit immediately goes down. Cleanse on the Chains of Corruption. Xiaoya's just juking around Tarzan, but the first blood comes through from Kael. And with the untargetable, Tarzan drops the aggro. And it's time to do the same song and dance once again. Hound's Pursuit forward. This time, Hope picks up the kill. Some fancy forward from Xiaoya, but the end result is a win to 2 kills. Anyone's legend.
That is the exact kind of play they needed to make. Shanks is going to pop egg, but Hung is in the area. He's overextended. He's going to have to try and run away here. We'll see if his team collapses on this and if they want to just take Dragon as the trade. But overall, this is the Anyone's Legend that I was missing, the one that would make a proactive counterplay across the map. Hung making his way in, though. This could be contested.
Ooh, just, if that was 10 seconds quicker maybe, much different scenario, but Tarzan gets that first Drake that you really fell in love with. Those 2 kills. AL out to about 1,000 gold lead. And LGD really only have the crux of those Grubs to fall back on. Maybe we could see that utilized to clear clear this gold gap a bit more later on.
This is a massive win for anyone's Legend. This is exactly how they wanted this early game to go, and now they're in a great spot. Ryze's Realm Warp is up. You're going to be getting that Neferi ult back online as well. This is a huge part of the game where they are just stronger than LGD in terms of their ability to play the map, and now they have the objective that just gives them a few more stats. Yes, grubs are going to be helpful in those side lanes, but generally speaking, you can start to force fights around these dragons, and you've got a lot of different ways to be able to control that terrain. You have to walk into Sion and Bard and Varus, and that becomes so much more difficult as this game progresses. This is the exact kind of opening AL we're looking for, and I think LGD do now have to feel a little pressured to make a play in order to catch back up.
Starting to see those first cheaper items start to come through here for that AL gold lead. Youmuu's already completed here for Hope. Is the first one to get a legendary item done. I spot Xiaoya up here on the top side here, so LGD, they're trying to overload to punish Flandra. Oh, great pillar there from Hung. No unstoppable onslaught to get him out. The force shot finds its mark from Xiaoya, who roamed all the way up top side and cashes in.
That is a very, very nice pick. I just talked about how LGD had to be, a little bit active on the map. They had to get some gold back, and they do get that gold back, specifically getting it onto Jhin. I think is really important. People talk about Jin's inability to kill tanks. Well, you've got a Trundle to siphon those stats away from Sion in this game. Jhin is going to be effective in this team fight. That turret is gone. It's just completely on Tongyuan now.
Tongyuan does not have egg. He already had a pop by Shanks. A pretty close range flash. Shanks drops the aggro. Tarzan picks up the kill. YCX Dredge Line actually clips Shanks, and he's able to find that trade kill, and there's no further dive to be had. I don't know how YCX walks up 1v3 and finds a kill.
That's massive for the Nautilus to be able to at least pull some gold back. We've seen that gold lead start to deteriorate for AL. Good map plays coming in from LGD, but again, the overextensions coming in from the middle of the map. It's just unnecessary for the Anivia to lose flash under turret in that exchange. I will say, massive advantage still in favor of LGD because they get the top tower on that push, and that is so much gold in their pockets in the early game, and that is the benefit of grubs. Yeah, exactly. That is the benefit of grubs, is being able to make sure you can get that gold in the right pocket. Bertle is going to be very strong in this game, and he's going to have to be.
Equalizer going to be a factor. Even more so. Now, that, like you mentioned, he's up about 800 gold. The Liandry's already completed to make him a formidable matchup into Mr. Flandra, no matter how much he would like to scale forward. 2 minutes until our Mountain Drake hits the Rift here, and there are no Rift Heralds, so this is where we really start to see the macro map plays be accentuated here by anyone's Legend as Hung meets Tarzan, who's got that Cyclo Sword completed and takes a decent chunk. But this is where the fun starts to begin, right? Because now we get into those side lane conversations came in. Our bottom lanes are stuck in mid lane. So let's see if Shanks can, maybe look for one of those overloads. We're yet to see a Realm Warp out of the Rise.
I do want to say as well, there's a 40 CS gap in the AD carry role right now. I mean, Hope is so far ahead on this Varus into the Jhin. This is not how this matchup is supposed to go. Jhin should be perfectly fine farming for free, but that's not been the case so far this game. If Jhin starts to fall behind, it's nice to see that catch-up, gold come through, but Hope is a full item up right now. He's got that Youmuu's completed, and that is massive if they want to look for some of these side lane plays, because again, you're right, the Realm Warp is up, it is available, and while Tongyuan might be stacking that Roa a little bit quicker, the best ability is availability, and Shanks has much better availability for these team fights. If you can play around this Varus and Neferi power spike with the Realm Warp, I mean, this is the exact part of the game where I think AL have all the tools necessary to open things up, even if it's not around this dragon in 50 seconds.
Okay, man, just imagine if Xiaoya doesn't get that 4-shot kill. This would be a catastrophic difference in the AD carry department. And, well, the way Mr. Xiaoya is building, it's not like he's going to scale and catch up too much further with that Youmuu's, but here we go with Kyle. Realm Warp down behind after the Tempered Fate grabs 2, and YCX didn't have a chance in the world to survive Tarzan's wrath. 25 seconds till the dragon is out, and Mr. YCX will not be able to join the party.
I love when AL agrees with me. It feels right when I see this team go, hey, we're in a great spot in the mid game. What if we just kept pushing? What if we looked for these fights, looked for these plays to be made? And that's exactly what they do. Kyle being a big playmaker with the Bard ultimate, that's what I've been waiting to see. You don't need to wait for the dragon to force these fights. You can make them before the objective even spawns. You have control over the river, at least a little bit. You are going to let LGD be able to walk themselves in, but this is going to be a tough fight for LGD to take. They're going to have a little bit of control, but It's going to be tough to make sure you can outplay AL at this point. Shanks?
Yeah, I mean, Shank's taking a ton of harass here. Tongwon has the egg passive back up, and Hung has been bopping the Dragon on his own here with the rest of his squad. TP coming here down for Flanders. YCX stretch line will connect onto Kyle. Magical Journey's back out to safety. Dragon down about 3Ks. The curtain call comes out here from Xiaoya. Tarzan already into the pit, getting assaulted as he flashes over the wall. They find Tongwon, who with the egg form will finally drop. LGD pick up the Dragon, but at the cost of their mid laner, and now they got to hightail it out, try and get away from Kyle with the Tempered Fate. Forces a flash. No one found, but the flash galore forward. Decimating Smash won't be found because YCX trades his key summoner out as well. AL desperate to find more kills, but they'll only trade a Dragon for Tongwon's life. Chains of Corruption does not get enough damage through for Hope, and we finally settle back down from our first 5v5 of the series.
It's a good disengage coming in from LGD. Ultimately, it's not nearly as bad as it could have been, but they still get an extra kill for the side of Anyone's Legend. And the thing that I continue to push is that AL are going to be very happy with the trade of, oh, you want to start playing for Dragons because you've started to get them as well? Well, we're going to be able to take those fights in the river. We're going to be able to set up around a lot of these 5v5s. We see how this starts. It actually looks kind of bad for Shanks, who loses half of his health before anything even begins. But Tongwon is so separated from the rest of his team at this point because he was trying to get shoved onto the bottom side that he is, you know, a sitting duck. There is no way for him to be able to rejoin his team at any point. He is the sacrificial lamb for this Dragon to go down. It's not the play that LGD wanted to make, but at the end of the day, it's probably the one they felt the most comfortable making, and at least they got something out of it.
I thought I saw that right, by the way. Tongwon realized he was dead, so he actually tried to TP out because he knew only Rune Prison was the CC they had. It was close to the egg TP out there, but that does take the TP off Tongwon as he drops again. So that will not be available, and will make LGD's map play a bit lesser of a threat here with that TP down. Rift Herald is going to be the prize for AL with that map pressure you're talking about here, K-Man. So we'll see if they can utilize that to knock down their first structure of the game. Top lane's looking pretty healthy, so I suspect maybe a mid lane play, but right now, Birdall's getting some free time of his own on that bottom lane. It's going to force the unstoppable onslaught on Mr. Flounder to make sure that AL does not lose another structure.
I mean, you get the ult out, but it's really a scary situation now. You have Tarzan on Neferi, 3 kills, up 1,000 gold, and he's got the Herald, so he's going to be able to increase that lead even more going into the later part of the game. If you were worried about potentially getting outscaled if you're Anyone's Legend, which I think is maybe not a huge fear, but something that you have to think about in these team fights with the way that things are structured, you know what solves that problem is a very fed Neferi in the jungle who can just take over these team fights. That's exactly the situation they've set up for. And, I mean, this is classic AL. It's Kyle making plays, and it's Tarzan getting fed on a carry. It's everything we asked for here in Game 1.
It's a nice bounce back for two fans of the Pandas. This definitely feels shades of AL when they're at their best here. And, well, Tarzan is looking to once again redive. Here we go with Anyone's Legend. An overload. It forces Birdall to TP out, but again, that's still a win for AL. They get that summoner out, and now they get more standing gold. Their first turret dropped on the map.
AL show up and get a free teleport. Like, that's how scared LGD have to play right now. That being said, Hung's trying to contest his red buff?
Oh, okay. Cosmic Binding lands into that Tempered Fate here. Chains of Corruption perfectly timed, but Hung is going to get him at Kales, able to get out as Tarzan gets stuck in the Glacial Storm. Tarzan going to have to use a very small Magical Journey to distance himself as the Curtain Call forces a Realm Warp. Kyle hurting, but he's out and safe. AL maybe starting to test their limits of the map pressure game.
I was so bought into the AL hype that I really thought they were going to win that. But no, you can't get away with everything on the map, it would seem. They do get punished a little bit for overextending, have to burn a couple of their big playmaking tools to get themselves out. But this is the problem, is that was about as good as you could hope for LGD at this point, and they still were in a little bit of a danger in that situation. You need to be continuing to look for these plays, especially now that the Realm Warp is on cooldown. This is when you can start playing those side lanes, and this is when you can start utilizing some of the power coming in from Anivia to trap some of these less mobile carries. Really interested to see if LGD can take advantage of this exactly like this.
All right, Tangwan, another great trade there into Shanks. Tarzan was looking for the dive, but said he's found Hung, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's 4 members of AL all over Hung's jungle. He flashes, but the Hound's pursuit follows. Great follow flash from Tarzan. He doesn't get hit by the dredge line. The wall does not force Tarzan back into turret aggro, so he gets himself out of dodge. Another great overload. This time, AL grab another kill and push their gold lead even further. Unless Birdall has something to say about it. Been pretty quiet in this game so far. He's itching to make a play. The Stoppable Onslaught going to clip the wall there from Flandra, so Birdall is able to walk things out. But still, another AL win. The gold lead continues to rise.
This is definitely just a little bit of an experience diff right now. AL are so much faster to these plays. They are so much quicker at being able to react to what they want to do on the map. And I talk about this all the time. Whoever gets to control the pace of the game, whoever is the one making the decisions, they are often going to be the ones that control how the map goes. Right now, that is anyone's legend. They have gotten themselves a 2.5K gold lead. We're going to get a replay of this. AL are just first to the play. Hung trying to farm up here on Tarzan, but Kyle, Flandra, they are quicker to react. Look at the rotations coming in from YCX and from Birdall. They're just not in time, and that sets up for AL to try and take this dragon. They're second to the game.
Wow, what a way to drop out of a replay here. We have battle lines already drawn. First Infernal Drake of an Infernal Soul on the map. And oh boy, that's a Battle Herald summoned here. Tempered Fate again. Xiaoya's flash has to be used. The interruption clips onto YCX. Equalizer onto the back line. Does very little damage. Shanks has to walk back up towards the team as YCX regains with the dead line. Tarzan gets the Infernal Drake. Is absolute pandemonium as Flandra is the first one to drop here. LGD once again trying to kick it out of the Drake pit with the one kill they're able to grab. But there's a Rift Herald in the mid lane. AL grab themselves the dragon, and they are not looking to slow down the pace here. Great wall from Tangwan, though. Makes the Rift Herald very irrelevant. And mid-tier 1 should stand tall here still for LGD.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really big play for LGD. Being able to stop that Herald is kind of the difference between this game starting to spiral and them being able to at least keep something up on the map, specifically keeping that gold lead from ballooning out of control in the jungle. But still, Dragon going over to AL. They are now 2 away, obviously, from Soul, but more importantly, it's going to be an Infernal Soul this game for Neferi, playing into a comp that really has Nautilus as its... Oh, God, Birdall is just gone. Disregard anything I said about Tarzan not having a 2K gold lead.
we were waiting so much, right? We felt like AL were getting those small the wins, right, on the side lanes, but LGD had done a pretty admirable job guarding it, so it's usually only a 1-for-1 trade. It costed a lot to get those pick plays over. This is where we start to really open the game up if Tarzan's able to just really pick off any of these side laners, because you mentioned the gold lead. He's got 3 items, K-Man. If he finds either Tangwan or Birdall alone, he's winning those 1v1s handedly.
Neferi might be winning the 1v5s handily very soon in terms of how these team fights are going. Tarzan, I mean, this is his signature carry. When you think about how he can destroy games, it's always been this champion. I'm shocked to see AL get so much comfort in game number 1 in the draft. It's basically the complete opposite of what happened in their previous series against WE, and they're utilizing it here.
Chains of Corruption, just making sure that YCX can't put the depth charge down when the pillar lands there from Hope. Still protected. Also has the Edge of Night Shield, which is very pesky, as the dredge line will land here onto Flandra. Exact target that AL want to get hit, but with that subjugate shredding stats, Flandra is a mincemeat. There's the pick found there for LGD. YCX is going to re-engage with a audacious dredge line. Hope puts a piercing arrow into his heart and finds that trade kill, as mid lane is the center stage for our next round. It'll just be a 1-for-1 trade again. These fights teetering on breaking this game open, but we're not just there yet. It's still AL in control.
How many 1-for-1s have we had this game, Slayer? It's been absolutely astounding. It feels like even when it looks like it's going to be a 1-for-0 in the mid lane, YCX makes sure that we get a 1-for-1 trade with the not re-engaging there. But still, I hate to say it, it's fine for anyone's legend. I know I keep repeating that these small 1-for-1s are going in their favor, but they have so much control over the map that when these exchanges happen, they immediately get to translate that lead into their pushing lanes insides, which means that they get to benefit from the fights happening in the first place. Still 2 minutes away from Dragon, which I think is going to be the next major fight, but don't be surprised if, you know, Kyle's ult coming off of cooldown in 5 seconds means that AL are going to try and open up for another playmake again.
You can see just how much the Pandas are itching to make Tangwan uncomfortable, not just to, slow this interview down further, but more importantly, K-Man, this wave clear of the Anivia is really hampering AL's ability to open this map up more. Finally, now with Tongguan on a reset, they will knock down that mid-tier 1 turret. They've been wanting to do that for about the last 10 minutes. Oh, that's a great wall from Tongguan. Shank's on the wrong side. Pillar knocks him back towards LGD, and the LGD mid laner picks up a key shutdown. Birdall is TP'd in. The first signs of mortality here from Anyone's Legend as they're on the back foot.
Yeah, we'll see how much they can get off of that. That is a very, very big pick. Ryze is dead for 30 seconds. They're going to try to get this mid lane tower.
Equalizer down. Pushes AL even further away, and thanks to those grubbies, no aggro on to the champions of LGD. And they'll get the kill and a trade of that tier 1 turret. And they're really eyeing this Baron, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, you don't want to overreact to a nice pick, but it is a very nice pick. This is the problem with Ryze specifically as an answer to Anivia, is you can catch out Ryze playing way too greedy and aggressive. He has to step up to do as much as he can, and Shank's just not respecting the fact that he can get caught. In that instance, it's a great hook from YCX as well to be able to secure the follow-up CC after the wall and make sure that the Realm Warp is not enough, that you have the damage coming down, but it just takes the gold lead from 3K down to 1.5K. You're still setting up around these objectives, and as we get closer and closer to Soul Point here for AL...
Oh, Birdall. It's just rinse and repeat. Oh my god, Tarzan, that disgusting amount of damage at this point. Yep, Tarzan is making a point that this Rumble, really just both of these solo lanes are really starting to lose a grip on the leads that they have. Yes, Birdall is still above 1,000, but that's what you expect in the Scion. We're on to the Baron here for Mr. Tarzan and company. LGD can't get in. No. Tempered Fate's going to clip YCX. Hope going to commit the Chains of Corruption. The lockdown comes across YCX. It's using the Chaos and his flash just to get away from the AL engage. LGD, though, they do get the Pandas off of that Baron, but I have a feeling AL are just going to mosey their way on down to a Soul Point date with an Infernal Drake. As another good wall comes across from Tongguan, there's Kyle that has to use his flash. It's not necessarily too easy for AL to cross over to this dragon, but nonetheless, they are here, and Tarzan is burning through it. Here's the curtain call down from Xiaoya to do some poke damage. Another hook's going to come down onto Flandre as Hung gets in and takes away the dragon. Flandre eats the force shot. He's a blinking health bar, but here comes Tarzan. How's Pursuit call the pack? He's dashing on everybody. Xiaoya's the next victim. The king of the jungle has returned for Anyone's Legend, and LGD will not survive. Tongguan will find a trade kill onto Flandre, but he drops into the egg form that's getting turned into an AL omelet. Ace down home for AL, and it's their king jungler to do it.
Tarzan is back. What a team fight from the true leader of Anyone's Legend, the player that needed to step up in this series. He not only stepped up in that team fight, he hard carried. We get a replay of how this is set up in the first place. This honestly isn't all that bad from LGD. As long as Birdall can make it back to the fight in relatively quick time, you have a way to be able to play this out. The steal comes through from Hung, but they commit so much to the dragon that this Neferi is untouched. The ultimate already off of cooldown from that play on the top side. And as close as Tarzan gets to dying here, we all know this Neferi is unkillable at times in these team fights, and Tarzan plays it just about as perfectly as you can ask. Hope as well on the backline, just dealing so much damage on this Varus, really utilizing that gigantic lead he was able to generate for himself, and the plays aren't even over. Kyle gonna whiff an ultimate. Who cares? We're setting up for Baron now.
And they are not letting LGD in. Another Mikhail's in response to Chains of Corruption. This time Hung, but Hope's caught on the wrong side of a wall. He's got a flash where the Dredge Light comes down, but the Root Prison does find YCX. And a key engaged tool is down, and Hound's Pursuit's coming through again from Tarzan. Birdall's worst nightmare, once again, is the pack of Tarzan's dogs. 2 kills to AL, and now Baron is a certainty for the Pandas.
Anyone's Legend taking a lead and making it a certainty. This is what we missed from this team. This is the exact kind of gameplay that we were begging to see out of Anyone's Legend. We weren't seeing it throughout a lot of the regular season. We weren't seeing it in the series against WE. They got a reality check in that series, and it's clear that they have shown up here today. They are respecting LGD. They are playing confident. They are playing cocky, and they are dominating the map right now as they've exploded their gold lead up to almost 6,000.
And more than half of that, K-Man, in Mr. Tarzan's pocket here. He'll finally look to reset after all that chaos. And, yep, there's the endless hunger completed. He is 4 items strong. And, well, if you thought Birdall's health bar was going down quickly, you better hope this guy doesn't get to reset on your entire backline if you're LGD. It is a scary prospect for this comp to play back forward. And now the purple assault, we'll call it here, for AL is coming onto all these turrets as well. They'll drop a top lane tier 2 turret to further increase their gold bounty.
I mean, this is just exactly, I say it's exactly what you want to see, but it's all comfort here as AL continue to push out these 2 different lanes. They're so good at pushing forward. They got to be careful of the wall here, though. They could get caught into some bad positions. They should be fine. They have a ton of different ways to disengage, so long as it's not the Ryze who ends up getting caught, or the Varus in that instance. So just making sure that you don't take one of these flashless carries into a bad spot. They should be able to push this down and try and pressure out this tier 2 in the mid lane.
Even with Baron empowered minions, again, the Anivia value is very valuable on these pushes. I think it's very hard for them to ever kind of just brute force down a turret unless it's on its last crutches. So I like to see Tarzan kind of break up that mold and shift down to the bot side where Tongwan is a bit late here to try and cover. But again, AL are going to, respect the wave clear, respect the wall, as you pointed out, and they're not going to over-index too far to try and get these turrets. LGD are just slower to these rotates for now, but it hasn't cost them any turrets. Just as another Tempered Fate does come down onto Hung. Good untargetable, forces YCX too far forward. He's got the McHale's, a Rune Prison there from Shanks. So that key CC tool is off the board here for LGD as the 4-1 has fully come online here.
That's exactly it. When I talk about it being kind of hard to stop this push, it's because AL basically get to choose exactly where they want to be. They had so many good lane states across the entire map that they can push mid, they can push top, they can push bot. They're going to be able to get all of these turrets. The moment you land one Bard ultimate, you have to burn everything to make whoever got hit by it escape, and that's the rest of the turrets going down as well. So 8k gold lead for AL. It's a good use of this Baron, and when they're back on the map, as this Baron expires, you know what else is on the map? Infernal Soul, or I guess not Soul, Infernal Soul Point, I'll say, for anyone's legend, an objective that I think they're going to be pretty happy to go out and try and take.
And they've got a lot of their engaged tools back online. This time for LGD, I will point out they do all have access to their flashes, so some playmaking still in the bag here for LGD. And hey, they do have first setup towards the side of the river, but the Baron push may be dissipating, but AL have used the last gasp of it to bring a mid-wave down, and now they can flank the setup that LGD have. Dragon is dark. It is going down slowly here as Flandre will try and walk in with his BD health bar. Tempered Fake and land on the 2 as Chains of Corruption also comes through here from Hope. But looking at Tarzan on the background, Burdall's already into the stasis here. Flandre's going to be the first one to drop as Hung does get himself out. But LGD have now abandoned the Dragon, and Burdall is still left on an island with a rabid dog known as Tarzan. Shanks finds that first kill, and now LGD are cornered in the wrong side of the jungle. Tarzan going to go after Hung. Here is Tongwan will find Kyle. Flashes galore come out as Shanks looks to find Xiaoya, cleanses the Rune Prism, but his health bar is far too low, and Tarzan has found him. Tarzan has found all of LGD, knocking down kill after kill. Tongwan's gonna find one stun, but Tarzan smells blood in the water, and he's got himself another huge team fight win. Quadra kill to Tarzan, Ace 81's legend, game 1 to the Pandas.
Tarzan is here. If there was any question about whether or not he was ready to dominate another playoff series, every single one of those questions has been answered. You cannot give the king of the jungle Neferi. At this point, you must understand that you will lose. Dragon going down, so game is not going to be quite over just yet, but the base is completely broken open for AL. The gold lead is near insurmountable. It's a 6,000 gold lead for Tarzan in the jungle over Hung. 13 kills, and we get a replay of this team fight. I actually hate this setup for LGD. I think this makes it so much more difficult for them to play this fight out because they have to retreat upwards into these small close quarters. Bertle looking for the flank is separated, but Tarzan actually isn't in this fight for the big beginning part of it. If you can land some damage on the equalizer, maybe something can happen, but it's just not meant to be. Bertle gets basically no value out of that. Tongyuan does a great job of trying to pull something back here. The CC chain coming down onto the Bard is really nice, but the priority targets are completely untouched. Shanks gets to flash over the wall. Tarzan gets to take down whoever he wants, and at this point, a half-health Neferi is more than enough to be able to clean up every bit of the rest of this team fight. You have just let the dog get too fed, and unfortunately, that means there is no comeback attempt that is available here for LGD.
Who? Okay, man. Let the dogs out.
Who?
Thank you. I'm sure that was the highlight of your casting career right there.
Yes.
Going back, it's deserved, right? This guy's 13-0 on the Neferi. I don't think I've ever done this, but you know what? If there's no way this comes back to bite us. Player of the game is Tarzan. I mean, we don't even need we can already have these conversations now. It's only, you know, amount of formality here for AL. They're going to try and set up for this next Baron that will surely allow them to push further through the LGD base. But LGD, they also can't necessarily let this go over for free, but you can see our observers showing just how dark the topside river is. Temperate Fate not going to land, so that's a small win for LGD, but who's going to answer the daunting task of face-checking into this river? It was YCX at first. Is able to absorb the chains of corruption. Shank's trying to flank alongside the bot part of this mid lane. Tarzan is forced to go into that untargetable as Kyle flashes forward to try and find these slows. Piercing arrows coming down. Flash! Unstoppable onslaught and S-Make smash from Flandra. He wants in on the playmaking game, and he's going to open up all of LGD to the buzzsaw that is anyone's legend. No Baron needed. There's the final fight. Game 1 now in the hands of anyone's legend.
AL putting the bow on top of a present to themselves in game number 1 as they push down the base. A dominant game 1 win, up 11,000 gold. Bertles not even safe
Bertle.
around his own fountain. This is everything we could possibly want out of AL. A dominant game 1 victory.
26 kills for anyone's legend. Tarzan a part of 24 of them. One of the greatest single game jungle performances of our playoffs so far. Anyone's legend, 1-0 up.
1-0 up, and it feels like it's an entire series worth of victories for them. This was dominating. I mean, the mental advantage that you're going to gain from winning this game number 1. We had questions about whether or not AL still understood the playstyle that they had last year, still understood who they were internally, what they were good at. They got the most comfortable draft they could possibly get. You get Kyle on a playmaker like Bard. You get Tarzan on by far his best carry champion in Neferi. You get to open up the map with the Rise. You have everything you could possibly want for this comp. And they said, hey, if you're going to be, you know, in a position where you're giving us what we want, we're certainly going to punish you for that. The only saving grace, I think, for LGD going into game 2 is that they can't have this draft again.
And, you know, if we try to look at small things I think LGD did well, I actually think if this snowball didn't go too poorly, I think Tongwan actually played a pretty good Anivia. He had some pretty clutch walls. He was actually bodying Shanks in the lane, so small things that we could try and latch on to here. But yeah, you said it best, K-Man. That is one of the more one-sided games we've had in the playoffs so far, and while it is disappointing for LGD, my first thought just has to be, if this is the AL we're going to get now that they're in the lower bracket, my God, this may be one of the most fun lower bracket runs we could possibly have. Because, folks, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but regardless of this series outcome, BLG JDG is the next series you will be having in the playoffs.
And the winner of this has to meet them in the lower bracket.
You bet.
Like, they are like that's what's on the plate is either JDG or BLG. So you better be building that confidence. You better be building your game plan and building up all of the momentum that you might need in that series. AL certainly doing as much as they can to get that in game number 1. Look, there have been some questions about whether AL is just not going to be the same team without Tabe. I think that it's reasonable to say that so far it's been a little bit of a concern. I absolutely do believe that they have it in them to maintain that same level of dominance they had, at least domestically, throughout a lot of last year. I'm so happy to see that really the game plan for them being open up the map, being, hey, Hope can be weak side, we can put him on Varus, let him play this poke champion, he can build Yomus and all these lethality items, and we don't have to worry about him too much, and then Kyle can move with Tarzan. We saw level 3, he was already invading Raptors with Tarzan. That's exactly what I want to see from this team. That's what you want to keep an eye on. If they start going back to Enchanters, I don't know if you get a game that looks like this. This is almost entirely because they kind of strayed away from what they had been losing on throughout a majority of the playoffs.
You know, I will say, though, if they want to be a team that can actually compete for this title, I do think they're going to have to find ways to show success in games where they don't just have Tarzan picking, or AL as a whole, like you mentioned, picking really good comfort, Tarzan on his best carry champion. Like, we are in best of 5s. It is fearless. We've said it endless amount of times. So, looking forward in this series in particular, if we're going to, continue this confidence game for AL, I need to see a sort of different version of this style. Or maybe Tarzan's more on like a playmaking bruiser. Maybe Hope and Kyle need to find a bit more success in the 2v2, because in the grand scheme of things, again, for AL, if you want to beat a BLG JG next round, if you want to beat a potential top esports, maybe even Red Hot WE later on in this tournament, you aren't going to be able to just play games like this comfortable of games and win series.
That's true. I mean, eventually Fearless is going to kick in, right? Like, you might have a couple of champions that you can go for with this playstyle, but you're absolutely right that eventually it's going to have to turn into a different direction. My whole argument would be I just hope that they can continue to open up the top side of the map, because for me, as much as I do like the way that Hope and Kyle can play at times, this team is almost always at their best when they can move away from the bottom side of the map. I think even
True.
Hope individually gets his best performances out, as we see 41.2 thousand damage in this game for Hope, led the entire game, even over Tarzan. I know it's Varus, and so part of that is just the Varus tax, but, you know, he's always at his best when he can just say, I don't want to worry too much about laning phase. I don't need to outplay people. I can do my job at a really high-end level and allow everyone else to be able to pick up the slack. Now, does that mean that you have to put Tarzan on carries? No, it means Shanks can be on carries. Even Flandra can be on carries on the top side. There are definitely different ways to play this out. I think it's just good to identify where your players' strengths are. Would I love to see them be able to expand upon that? Yes. And maybe this is the series where they give it that best shot against an LGD, especially if they're going to dominate games like this. But it is still good to see that AL can recognize this is their bread and butter. Like, this is who they really are at their core, and this is, you know, kind of the identity of the team.
I really agree with that sentiment, K-Man, that AL are a top-side forward team when we talk about going early into, like, mid-game. And then maybe Hope can really step up in later team fights, so he's been mostly ignored. So, thinking now about how we're looking forward to Game 2. We're rolling through the highlights of Game 1. It's the Tarzan highlight show, guys. That's basically all we got to say about most of these highlights. I do want to see Shanks and Flandra pick for winning lanes. I want to see them try and snowball in themselves. Maybe we could see champions like, you know, Flandra go for, he's really been loving the Vayne. He can go towards the Vayne top. I still think it'll be hilarious if one of these two top laners goes towards TF, because they're the only two top laners we've seen actually go for TF in the league so far. And then Shanks has a multitude of champions that I feel like he can lean on to that aren't just pure scaling like the Rise. So that's definitely something I feel like, K-Man, we should be looking out for. If AL are going to continue playing confident, let's put some more confidence in their solo lanes.
Let's do it, man. I mean, it's clear that they have the ability to step up. I wasn't great in Game 1. I will say the top lane matchup, I'm not blaming Flandra for being down in the Rumble Scion matchup. Like, that's just, his job was to lose gracefully, and he did exactly that. I will say Shanks needs to show a little more in Game 2. If there is a criticism of AL in Game 1, I think Shanks had a lot of moments where he was overextended, where he wasn't exactly playing the Rise at a really high-end level, and that's his most played champion of the split up until this point. That is, like, prime comfort. We ran a whole graphic about their side lane dominance with the Rise on the pre-show here, so to see him not look as comfortable going into Tongyuan on that pick is, you know, at least a bit concerning. Kind of makes me want to see a carry game from him even more in game number 2, because I would love to see him be able to get some of that confidence back under his belt, and I think for AL it might even be beneficial to say, all right, man, you know, everybody else feels good about the series. What can we do to get you involved and make sure you feel as good as possible?
Try to manifest in the future a Shanks Yone or a Kali game. That would be fun ones to go towards. Or hey, you know, K-Man, mistake me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this guy's got a Silas in his bag. That might be a little bit too far-fetched. Maybe if we get the right draft for it. Malphite's floating around in the meta. Alistair is making his way back in. Those are champions that can be punished by the Silas. We'll have to see. Right now, as we finish out that final team fight win here, K-Man, I'm going to bring out the gauge here, okay? We know Tarzan is player of the game. From a scale of 1 to 10, how angry will you get if it's not unanimous?
I think I'd be at like a near 90% angry. Like I'm like 9. So 9 out of 10 anger. Is that what you're looking for? Like
that is how the percent would scale into 10. Yeah.
Sorry, my analytical brain, poor color commentator can't think number.
Don't hit yourself on camera, please, K-Man. I did not mean to try to instill this in you.
No, it's, you know, it's my job. It's only my job to look at these numbers and try to make sense of it. So, yeah, if you're voting for anyone other than Tarzan, we watch different games. I mean, I'm sorry. We had the same conversation, to be fair, in the last series that we covered on the playoffs, and we were not in sync with the voters for player of the game.
Oh, we were so not.
We were very out of sync, so we'll see how this goes, but if this is not unanimous, I will be upset.
We knew this is what we knew. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was obvious. I mean,
guys,
he was up 7,000 gold.
Voters, he was up 7,000 gold. Voters, he was part of 24 of their 26 kills. There's the percentage. That's how much Cayman will be mad if Tarzan's not unanimous. Oh, right there. We'll go 92%. How poetic would that would be? Yeah, it's fun to see him again. Tarzan has had some ups and downs. I think he's had some really head-scratching plays in some of those bad AL losses. The Nefiri has been a pretty constant W for him. So to pick that one up is a big get. Really get him comfortable. There we go. Okay, no anger needed here. No anger needed. 8 out of 8 votes for Mr. Tarzan in the player of the game category. Exactly what we wanted to see, K-Man. But speaking of, I think we like to do this bit a couple of times, but we have player of the games that the LPL puts out for our series. Our players of the stream are all of you guys at home are awesome supporters in any aspect, by the way. But one particular way that you really can help us out if you would like to is through coffee. You can support the LPL English by becoming a coffee member, to be specific. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project. A vast majority of the contributions go directly into the show itself. A huge bulk of it paying stuff like on-air talent and content creators. So you can subscribe to the coffee. It is linked in the chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our interviews. Regardless if we can get on-site or not, we will have awesome interviews. And, of course, we'll have those for MSI. Where, K-Man, the people at home, if they subscribe to Coffee, can ask their favorite players in the world, and most importantly, their favorite LPL players, any question that, of course, gets cleared through our admin team. Not any question,
An important
everyone.
distinction. Yes,
Yep.
An important distinction. But, yes, go support us on Coffee, obviously, getting that question in. That could be a make or break for you learning exactly how these players become what they are or not. You can ask them, anything league related or anything general related that gets through. So very much appreciative of anybody who can support us. It's a big project. We have a lot of people behind the scenes that do so many great things, and being able to support them is fantastic. It's
been awesome to see, especially the support. I know we've ran a graphic already, but I really wanted to hit on it one more time. 100,000 followers on Twitch is an incredible milestone. We are not even 2 full years into the LPL English project, so to have 100,000 of you say, yeah, I want to be notified whenever they go live, it's a real treat here. And, well, anyone's Legend fans out there, if you are, you got a real treat in Game 1, a unanimous Tarzan MVP, and maybe some stress relieved after the WE upset. Let's see if they keep the ball rolling, or if LGD are going to make things interesting. Game 2 draft live and available for all of us after this short break. Back in a flash here, as our teams are eager to get back into the rift here. Game 2 draft is already on the horizon. If you missed Game 1, we can keep it pretty simple. K-Man, I'll let you do the honors. What was Game 1, man?
Tarzan's pretty good. This Tarzan guy is pretty good at League of Legends, huh? I think that summarizes Game 1. The 14-0 and 10 Nefiri, I think the scoreline maybe speaks for itself enough in that regard, but
I was going to start barking.
True. Yeah.
Thanks for the save.
Hey, far be for me to stop you from doing that on cast, but
no, it's okay. The moment passed. Yeah. It's not as funny anymore that I said that I was going to do it out loud, of course, right?
Sure. Yeah, well, hey, if there is something to say for LGD, if there is something to hold your head to, Nefiri, Bard, Varus, Ryze, gone. Even Sion, all gone. Off the board, Fearless has taken them away. A lot of the tools that they utilized to stay in that comfort zone, AL, in game number 1, they're not there anymore. We talked about this a bit after the game, but AL have a very clear way that they win games, and they've struggled when they move out of that playstyle. I'm curious to see if they want to stick towards what they showed in game 1, or if they feel confident enough after that game 1 win to potentially change some things up here.
Curious to see also how Tarzan will approach this game too, because, you know, the bruisers some of the classic meta bruisers can do carry jobs of their own, but a lot of his like super carry index champions are kind of off the board. I would even say like Trundle can kind of fit the bill in that aspect with how fed he can get on that champion and run away with it. I'm curious to see if Tarzan just goes towards meta or maybe picks up something like the Skarner we know he has. I know he has a Sejuani as well to try and facilitate for the topside solos that we're looking for a bit more of a carry performance from. Nonetheless, we are live. Game 2 draft underway here now. AL have been swapped over towards that red side. We see the Orianna ban still continue. We see the Nocturne ban still continue. But there's the Akali and there's the Seraphine. So a couple new players come into this game too.
They want to take away some of the more aggressive things, the more flippy things that LGD can throw on the table. Again, this is a very well-prepared draft phase, I think, overall for AL, recognizing, you know, they're going to get a lot of their advantages by just taking a lot of these picks and these skirmishes and trying to play, you know, more for generating resources. Anybody can win up 2k gold. Let's make sure it's as difficult as possible for them to do that. Plenty of options available for anyone's legend. Annie going to be the lock-in. Azir was something that I was really considering, but that really has seemed to fallen out of the meta over the past couple of weeks. Annie is a very consistent setup threat, and if they do want to go for another carry in the jungle or even something like a Lee Sin, Annie would be a really good pick to be able to facilitate that.
Don't start getting me excited over there, K, man. If we see Tarzan off of a 8 out of 8 MVP performance slam a Lee Sin, it could crash and burn, but out of the draft, I'd be so confident this guy's just going to completely demolish LGD. LGD, though, like this a bit more. They also tried to play away from the 2v2 with the Jhin, get the Nautilus back out on the map, but when you pick the Caitlyn up, you are looking to play for the lane. So that's going to be Xiaoya's lock-in. Does mean, though, that Hope can get onto another one of those champions, maybe the only other champion we feel like fits the bill of, you can leave Hope alone and you don't have to worry about him falling behind. I think this Ezreal will be a great slam and another champion that AL are going to get access to that fits right into their comfort bill.
Yeah, honestly, I would slam Ezreal Nico here. If I were them, I would just lock it in and not worry about it too much. You get another playmaker for Kyle to be able to play around. You could still do things in the 2v2, even against Caitlyn. Just kind of opens up everything. It's exactly what they want to do, and they follow my advice. They slam that Ezreal Nico, lock that in, and really set themselves up for another game that's very similar to game 1. This Nico can roam around the map really consistently, make a lot of plays pretty early on. You can play for the Ezreal if you really feel like you can get that Caitlyn under tower, but especially with Annie set up as well in the mid lane, this is another game where I think Tarzan's going to have his pick of the litter for basically whatever he wants to go for.
Be crazy if he pulls out something like the Viego, but the Pyke is going to come through here now for YCX. Seeing the Pyke come, make his way into the meta a lot more here, and now it's a complete kill lane down here bot side. So, I do think, like you mentioned, Nico and Ezreal at certain points can go toe-to-toe with any sort of kill lane, but massive respect needs to be paid towards Xiaoya and YCX in the 2v2 regardless.
Specifically YCX, he is a hook player through and through. We saw Nautilus in game 1. We saw the Blitzcrank in game 5. We are now seeing the Pyke come through. He loves to play these champions that can make these plays on their own. We've even seen the thresh out of him in the past as well. Gonna be curious to see what they pair this with on the top side. Cassiopeia is a champion that does need quite a bit of setup in order to be as effective as possible. You actually have a really dangerous late game comp to facilitate with the Pyke if you want to go in that direction. Things like Vayne and Gnar, counter picks on the top side being taken away. I think it's this understanding that it's very likely that LGD want to save this final counter pick for top lane, and they don't want them to have any of these really aggressive lane bullies that can take over in the right matchup. Do you want to go for a carry? I would prefer a facilitator here. I think Skarner is perfect for this draft for LGD. Not only is it Hung's most played champion of the split, but it gives Cassio and Caitlyn some good setup, and it really lets Pyke be able to combo off of somebody. Now the question is, does AL want to go for a carry in the jungle, or do they want to go for something like a Jarvan that is still available that can combo even more cleanly off the Annie?
I mean, with the Shen locked in, I'd really like to see the Battle Shen come out here and just say, Tarzan, let's give you the rock to carry us home. But we talked endlessly about some of these meta bruisers. It's never a bad sign to go towards one of them, and the Pantheon will come out here. So AL, I think they once again get a lot of comfort champions, and once again, K-Man, they're going to be a bigger threat on the map.
It's not even close. They're going to have all of the tools possible. Right now, LGD are going to want to try and survive. It's this side lane dominance that we talk about for AL, but it combos off the fact that they can play around the top side of the map. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to them. We'll see what the counter pick on the top side is going to be here. And it's going to be the Gangplank. The
wow,
GP
all right.
as the answer to Shen.
Caitlyn, Cassio, Gangplank. AL, you're on a timer, brother. Holy moly, these three champions scale so well.
It's not even that. It's Skarner as well. I mean, this is impossible to stare down if you're anyone's legend. You will never win a team fight in the later part of the game. You're not even going to get any pressure on the split push either because they have so many different ways to push out side lanes and to be able to take these turrets. It's very much a clock, but boy, that clock starts pretty late for LGD. I don't really see a good avenue for them to be able to make or control the map at all in the early game because of these macro ultimates, the Pantheon, the Shen, the Nico's going to be moving around the map. The Annie has so much set up. Even Ezreal is super safe. LGD, yes, they win if they go late. I don't know how they get there. I feel like we're staring down a lot of lane matchups where AL are just going to have full control of this map pre-20 minutes.
So Mr. Birdall does have 2 Gangplank games under his belt so far, 1-1, but it's been a hot minute since we've seen him go towards the GP. Fun draft here. I can respect the approach from LGD this time. They kind of felt like they couldn't go toe-to-toe with a snowball v snowball comp, a map play comp to match AL. So this time, they're going for the, like you mentioned, the more passive approach. We dare you to beat us fast, because if you give us enough time, this comp here from LGD does outscale. LGD playing for the late game. This is, I would say, K-Man, a huge inflection point. If they can get away with this comp and, you know, force 1-1 to hold.
Or you just ended the region. And actually, we're going to lose Worlds now.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I can't.
We're right back.
We are right back in action, and yep, Hope is dead. First blood over to YCX, and I think Xiaoyi gets this. One more. Oh my God, Kyle, we are playing a dangerous game with that flash. Technical difficulties. Our OBS could not handle the LGD draft, but nonetheless, we come back, and so both of our supports pick up the first 2 kills, K-Man.
Certainly already action happening on the map, and you know what? That's how you play Pyke. You want to talk about a kill lane. Pyke is certainly a kill lane champion. For those of you who might not have been watching throughout a lot of this split, definitely think of Pyke more like you would have thought of an Elise support, where you're hoping and praying that you can get these massive leads by roaming and making a lot of these big plays around the map. If you don't get that lead, things can become more difficult, but we talked about YCX being a bit of a hook extraordinaire type of player. He's going to try to make the most of it. Tongyuan just going to flash out of range. He doesn't want any sort of engage from Tarzan here.
I think he had to. I actually think if he doesn't flash there, he might just be dead, because a double flash follow-up, I don't think he's able to get out. So I appreciate that from Tongyuan, but Castillo without a flash is a easy re-gank tool, especially with Shanks being able to just snap stun, and Tarzan maybe without even out that Grand Starfall. So Tongyuan is going to have to play pretty safe going forward. Maybe we'll look to get a reset here as he's able to get this wave into Mr. Shanks, as Hung is going to venture into the enemy jungle, looking to find Tarzan. Pretty audacious. Usually you don't expect the Skarner to invade the Pantheon, but that's the power of the bot lane prio. Tarzan will smite away his Gromp, won't lose access, and will not be hankered by YCX's Pyke there.
Really good smite from Tarzan. If he doesn't get that, he is a little bit behind in terms of the clear. You never really want to be behind as the Pantheon. You want to hit that 6 as quickly as possible. Still, this could be double crab coming in from Hung as he makes his way towards the top side of the map here. TP coming in from Shanks. This would be a bit of a greedy take, but looks like Tarzan's going to give it over. Just going to understand that, hey, we're good. YCX is in the mid lane. Shanks has to flash.
That's what you want out of the Pyke. Oh, right. The Bone Skewer will go wide, but now both of our immobile mid laners without that key flash.
I mean, that's huge. Again, this is really well played from YCX in the early game. We need this Pyke to be able to open up the map, and he's doing exactly that. Really well done overall in the early game from LGD. This thing gets out of control pretty fast for them, and so the Pyke making sure to equalize a lot of this early pressure, making sure that Tarzan doesn't get out of control and start to farm up to hit that level 6 on the Pantheon is huge. Does leave his AD carry a little bit more exposed. Tarzan's going to look for a play, but his support is back on the bottom side here.
What is this role reversal? We just watched LGD 3-man invade onto Gromp, and now AL are doing the same thing onto Mr. Hug's Krugs. Taking a decent amount of harass here from Xiaoya. YCX going to hunt with the Bone Skewer, find Tarzan. Aegis of Assault going to have to come up here to make sure no more poke damage comes through from Xiaoya, but he's already got the Lethal Tempo stacked up. Tarzan going to have to flash there. AL getting pretty greedy to try and get Tarzan a lead in the camp category, and there's just a lot of early flashes off the board in this game.
I mean, it's a good start here for LGD. They do get a lot of those summoner spells. The question is, what do they get out of this, right? Burning the flash on Pantheon is huge. Burning the flash out of Annie is huge, especially for those level 6 plays that could come through. TP coming back. Flandre taking a couple of tower shots. He could actually potentially be in some danger here, but I always forget just how slow the TP is. And then I remember it's a Gangplank on the top side anyways, and then there's probably not a lot of kill pressure from that champion, but the gold has not really changed all that much. For as much as we can praise LGD for these plays, they haven't exactly gotten a ton out of it yet. Now, if they can punch these flashes and make sure they can take away some of that pressure at level 6, that is really where you can make your big mark, but they're probably going to have to do it relatively soon.
Keep up the tempo with YCX. We did talk endlessly about how the scale game is really on board for LGD, but a lot of the matching of the map play is going to come on to Mr. YCX's hands to see if he can create havoc with, like you mentioned, those lack of flashes. Especially now that we have that first Drake online. The Mountain Drake is in the pit just behind you as our junglers continue to try to contest each other's camps. Hung will not lose out onto his Raptors there. Ultimate available for Tongwan. Shanks really wants to get Tippers online here. Definitely the best game to play into a Pyke, though, is Ezreal, and Hope is ever confident that he can dodge out on these Bone Skewers without having to use that Arcane Shift.
I mean, it's a very similar situation for Hope in game number 1. He just kind of has to basically hope and pray, if you want to use his name in some sort of pun. Pray another AD carry, but I digress. You gotta hope that the top side wins. That's the dream here for Ezreal, is that you can just continue to push in, play relatively well into the Caitlyn, be really safe, play around these dragons, and just allow your top side to be able to generate their own leads. Again, for as much as we're praising what LGD are doing right now, this Pyke is level 3 and eventually will become less of a nuisance in this mid game because the Pantheon and the Annie are going to be such a diabolical duo. Even the Shen's really going to negate a lot of the power from Pyke. You're going to look for those ult executes, and you're just going to run into a giant Shen ult on top of whoever you're trying to kill. So it's definitely not going to get easier for this champion, and that's why I think it's really important to take advantage now before they start to get online with those level 6s.
Well, Tarzan, not too far away from that mark. One camp will actually get him access to that Grand Starfall. Hung as well, one camp away from having the Impale, but he's looking to go for that Ishtal's Impact gank, maybe onto Flandre. Not going to pull the trigger there just yet. He's pathing towards Tarzan's Raptor Pit. Tarzan's spotted, but he's going to double back here. This camp is for level 6.
Yeah, notably for level 6. Shanks is level 6 as well.
Oh, Tarzan's
got it. Going in, once he hits it.
There's Tippers to lock up the stun. Hunk's going to flash a try and installs Impact Shanks, but he doesn't get him into the wall. Doesn't matter. Petrified Gaze going to find that first kill, but here comes the Stand United. Battle Shen is here to play, and Flandre will help Tarzan, making an AL win. Double over to our king of the jungle. Oh, maybe he wants a triple, came in. Grand Starfall going right after Birdall. The Powdered Keg going to find one slow. Tarzan does have the Aegis Assault up if he wants it, trying to stack up his Q passive. He's going to eat another Q, but there's the stun back up. Flash from Birdall into the bush, but it is warded. Aegis Assault comes down just in time. Birdall finds the kill. And Flandre, I don't think he can cut down this gap just in time. Birdall's going to kite back. He wants to try and play for another kill. Flandre going to walk into that brush. No vision. The alcove is Birdall's friend. Does eat up on some oranges. Vitamin D does not save Birdall. Flandre will drop him.
A crazy fight. Ultimately, a very, very good fight for both teams because the gold is going on priority members. We're not done yet, though. YCX!
Oh, the Flash Bone Skewer lands short.
Just a little short. YCX, I mean, he is trying to pull some things back. An unbelievable turn of events. Both of these teams throwing caution to the wind on these exchanges, and it opens up grubs for LGD to be able to take in this game. This was something I was going to point out if we didn't get all this action, but grubs are actually massive for this LGD comp, much more so than in game number 1, in my opinion. They actually have some really good side lane control in terms of how they were able to play out, and I do think that being able to pressure out Shen and Pantheon and be able to force some of these plays on side lanes while they make those macro calls, that's really important to keeping themselves in a lot of these game states in the mid game, even if they're not making the most aggressive plays on the map. Getting a kill on the Gangplank is good. Getting a kill on the Cassio is good. 2 kills on the Pantheon, though. Quite terrifying.
Terrifying indeed. Don't think it'll take many more camps before Mr. Tarzan has himself the Sundered Sky completed. Gonna steal away another Raptor camp here with Kyle covering. Both these supports, once again, I like it. Really getting out on the map here. A bit more out of YCX here so far. And the first dragon is still yet to be claimed. I think this is AL's window to go for it. They have a Xiaoya having to answer a bot lane wave. That is Tanguan clearing out a mid lane wave. Yep, all right, so AL are going to get the former love of K-Man, the dragon side of this trade. There's all True Shot Barrage. Oh! Man down, YCX!
Yeah, there goes the Pyke. Well, unfortunately, you know, I compared Pyke to Elise. And what I meant by that is that it's level 4. I hope you got your lead because it gets harder from here. Hung on the top side, going to try and punish Flandra. This is going to be a difficult play to make, though. Oh,
but he gets the slam into the Impale. Come on back over, Flandra. Birdall's got a word he wants to have with you. He's able to get back under turret here. Oh, the Cannon Barrage. That's enough of a slow, and there's a rock landing on Flandra in the back. Nice little cross-map play there from LGD.
I actually think that if he had Q up like a second earlier, he survives that. Because he survives the Q coming in from the Skarner. You got to be real careful with the Shen on the top side. The play is made, and they are going to get a lot of gold on a Bertle. When you're talking about generally getting gold in the right spots, I think Gangplank is the most important member in this game. The Cassiopeia is going to scale. You're going to hit a point where that team fight's going to be successful. You have the front line coming in from the Skarner. It's Gangplank that can make or break whether this comp is successful, and being able to get that Triforce completed early, even getting some gold on the Caitlyn here, utilizing some of that pressure. It's well placed for LGD. They have themselves a small gold lead, and we talked about them scaling so well. Them being able to win early is definitely a bonus.
But now that we've opened up the map a bit more, start to meander our way into the mid-game. Tarzan has a lead, and he's going to look to try and push that further forward with that map pressure like we talked about. Battle Shen up and available for Flandra. Stand United is back online, and Grand Starfall overloads are soon to come. Reminder for maybe people that missed Game 1, Tarzan's favorite target to get him super fed on the Naafiri was Mr. Birdall. So wonder how much he's going to try and slow down this GP that you mentioned is out to a pretty good start for a full-scale top laner.
We know Birdall can make some plays happen, but AL looking for those plays themselves, grouping up as 3. It's exactly what we wanted to see from anyone's legend. Kyle continuing to make his presence known. This is why you draft Bard in Game 1. That's why you draft Nico in Game 2, to allow this guy to open up the map and really be a key macro threat. Definitely worth noting that the Dragons are going in favor of AL. I think their comp prefers a lot of these river fights in terms of the way they're set up. True Shot Barrage can hit basically the entirety of the river, and obviously Pop Blossom is going to be a big problem when you're trying to approach them if they can set up early. So definitely important for AL to continue to have these fights around some of these neutral objectives, but for now, just going to be chilling. We'll see if they want to go for some of these more aggressive plays. You got to be a bit worried about the Pyke, but no level 6 on that champion does mean that you are a little bit safe for now at being able to make some aggressive plays without getting punished too hard.
I'd like to divert the conversation for a second to voice my displeasure. Why is my Caitlyn building Collector in the big 2-6? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Hex Optics, like full crit, it makes Caitlyn such a viable threat in the late game. We'll have that conversation later. Flandra is just getting jumped by Hung every day and twice on Sunday. Really holding for the Bone Skewer. He's now going to flash for the Impale after the dash does come across. And Flandra will once again fall. This time it's Birdall that picks up the kill. Hung is really getting revenge for Birdall after what he went through from Tarzan in Game 1.
I really like this play, and the ult being dropped on the bot lane is really important. It actually saves this tower from being taken for Hope, I believe. At least it'll take one more wave. Worth noting that as much as we can talk about Bertle getting super fat on the top side, very true. Good investment from Hung to be able to get his top laner into a great spot. You do have now a bot side problem because you're 30 CS up again on the bot side as Ezreal into Caitlyn, which is only going to be a bigger issue as we get further and further along into the mid game. We'll see where these fights end up happening because Gangplank has the entire gold lead right now for LGD, and if they can fight around him, maybe they can continue to pressure this out, but it is definitely going to be a bit more difficult to fight around anyone else at this point.
About a minute out from that next dragon. Sure, it's going to be a big priority for AL, but as you talked about, it was a really nice highlight you made when AL was playing confident on the map. When they're in this sort of phase, they like to make fights happen a bit before those objectives come around here. So I'm curious if we're going to get our first, or I guess our second Grand Starfall here from Tarzan to maybe try and pick up a kill before this Drake spawns. It's a little too close for comfort here. At this point, Tarzan's going to be spotted on the top side by a nice ward, so Birdall will be able to play safe, and they can't really make this pick happen. I think Tarzan's just going to have to walk all the way back down towards that bot side. Stand United available for Flandra. Both of them actually have TP as well, so could be setting up for our first 5v5 where Birdall's lead is really going to be tested.
I mean, in my opinion, it's now or never for AL. We keep talking about how they get outscaled in this game. You do have to make plays eventually. You have to start forcing these fights, and this dragon is going to be a really big one to set up for. They do have the push in the mid lane, which is super important to make sure this Nico is as dangerous as possible around this area. We can look at the vision coverage. It's one solitary ward right now on the bottom side. I guess two, technically, if you want to talk about the one near Gromp as well. But overall, there's not a lot of vision of the river coming in from the side of LGD. It is very nerve-wracking to try and walk into a Nico, and they might just try to avert it entirely by playing towards this top side again.
Flandra, buddy. It's just one of those games, man. He's going to see Hung. Is he going to stand United here? I don't know if he gets this off. I think Hung might have canceled it. Flandra's not going to arrive. The Grand Starfall still comes down, and it's a nice stun layering, but Tongwan is going to flash before the anti-damage is enough to get the kill. Tarzan goes for a Hail Mary Spear. That doesn't land. Rockabelle doesn't get Kael close enough, so unfortunate timing there for Flandra on that Shen ult. It's not a kill, but AL should be able to trade this Herald for the second Drake of the game.
It's a trade of objectives, but again, a trade of objectives is good for LGD. The only negative is that AL can start forcing fights around these dragons as we get closer and closer to Soul Point. That is a concern with the comp that they've drafted for themselves, but stalling this game out in the way that they have has been really impressive. YCX going to be playing really on the edge of danger here as he begins to scout out the dragon. We're going to get a replay of this ult being stopped here. Just well done by Hung, unfortunately for Flandra. The entire team was in the area, so wasn't able to get that ult off, but just again, overall, very positive, I would say, for LGD. They're 2k gold up, and they're able to drop the Herald in the mid lane with a comp that scales this well. A lot of the gold is on this Gangplank. We might actually be seeing a pretty good game state for LGD in this one.
And this is a test for AL. It is easy to take a massive lead into the mid game, 2k plus gold, and never look back. But AL, with all the struggles we talked about, back looking to the regular split, back looking up against Team WE, they're definitely one of those teams that has struggled to overcome a gold deficit in the early to mid game. And like you've continued to point out, they need to make that up sooner rather than later. They cannot really be waiting around. I would even be worried about them kind of just waiting for next dragon timers to do so, because giving Caitlyn more items, GP will be soon a second item at this point. We're allowing a Roa Cassiopeia, a Serap's Cassiopeia to scale further. They need to make plays before objective timers allow them to do so.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to start pushing the tempo. I think at some point, you definitely need to make sure that you're getting gold onto priority members. Keep an eye on that Grand Starfall coming in from the Pantheon. Once that's off of cooldown, I imagine we're getting a lot more action on the map. That's going to be the main, I think, go tool for what AL want to do here in the mid game. For LGD, they obviously just don't want to make a massive mistake at this point, but the AL that we saw in game number 1, controlling the map, playing through tempo, understanding where they need to be in side lanes. It's not been the same AL that we've seen here. You know, they were first to basically every play. This time they're much more reactive, and LGD are doing a great job of getting side lane pressure and being able to counter map essentially anywhere. Bertle gonna have to TP out from the aggressive play that's being made here, but again, TP for Gangplank for a bot lane tower, I think they're gonna take that trade.
At the very least, it's gonna go 1-for-1, right? Bot lane tier 1 to top lane tier 1. And he's able to soak up Shanks' ult, get the stun down. Birdall doing a really good job on his own. and also pairing up with Hung. Yeah, he's going to walk his way back here and doesn't really even miss out on too much. Yes, he's able to get that one of those cannon barrage upgrades as well. Here comes the Great Starfall here from Tarzan. Dongguan, nice TP. Tarzan thought he walked towards the river. He just kind of mogs him, TPing out in front of Flandra's face.
Typically, you wouldn't say that teleport for ultimate is a good trade, but in this case it is. Grand Starfall is their main initiation tool, and it's been used for nothing in the mid game here. It feels like this Pantheon has just not had the same level of effect that you need. Xiaoya doing a good job to push down this turret with the Caitlyn in the mid lane, and YCX just pressuring out. This turret's going to be gone very soon.
Oh, but here we go. Kyle Papas on a 2. It's Xiaoya that's to flash. He's far too low. Tarzan follows, and a battle shed has arrived. All of a sudden, AL spring a trap. They've got 4 in the mid lane. It's only Xiaoya, though, that ends up dropping. So, again, it's a nice overload here from AL, but they're not getting enough returns on their initial investments.
I mean, it is still a good pullback. You are able to get a kill there, and you're able to stop at least some pressure from going down. You lose a lot on the map, and that turret's very much clinging on to life, just barely. If Xiaoya doesn't misplay that at least a little bit, you probably get even less, though. So you're pretty lucky with how that ends up, working out. Xiaoya steps up and takes the full Ezreal combo with a tower shot while trying to take down this turret. Kyle is able to capitalize well. Even with the cleanse coming out from Xiaoya, Tarzan's able to secure it with the flash. At this point, though, LGD really have no damage. Hung Yuan trying to combo off of it, but unfortunately the ult just not enough in that instance. And while it is still a gold lead for LGD, you don't want to be making those levels of mistakes. Tarzan now going to continue to look for some plays, this time on Bertle.
Okay. Wave isn't up yet to allow Shanks to walk through. They're kind of just backing Bertle off the turret so he can't get these pattern cakes down to clear out the waves and allow Shanks to finally knock down this top tier 1 turret. Get himself some extra gold here to further accelerate. Could potentially help Shanks get over towards that second item to put a lot more burst onto the Andy's kit. True Shot Barrage try and clear the wave here. Okay, I like that from Tarzan. He pulls the wave. They are keeping this mid tier 1 on its last legs here, K-Man.
I think they really want to force them to try and overcommit for it once this dragon spawns to try and get inside track onto the bottom side of the river. That makes a lot of sense in this instance. It's just a lot of resources committed from Tarzan. He is 3-1-0, so once again, he is going to be a bit of a win condition for anyone's legend in some of these fights. They wouldn't have it any other way. Hope going to be able to shove that wave out, and as I pointed out, 20 seconds on that Cloud Dragon spawning. It's Cloud Soul this game for AL, and it's actually a really good one for their comp. They're going to be very happy to be able to play this out. They have the inside track with that vision. Keep an eye on Kyle. He's a big initiator for LGD or for AL in this one. If LGD overstep with their lack of mobility, that could be a problem.
Yep, YCX is going to look for Bone Skewer picks, but Kyle's going to look for that big team fight. It's again a force to try and get this mid-tier 1 turret down. Can they get Xiaoya in to get this auto through? Yep, there we go. So Hong's going to pick up the mid-tier 1 finally. And AL are bullied out of the river for now. Flandra's walking back over towards that top side. He, of course, has Staying United backup and available. And Kyle is hunting for a killer flank, but he will also be spotted.
Yeah, this is just... Kyle is completely separated. He might even be caught out here. Bertle and YCX are going to be moving around the side. It's going to be so tough now for the Nico to find her way in. This flank was really, really greedy. We'll see if Kyle gets punished.
All right, here we go. He's trying to bring Shen back in here. The pop awesome only hits onto YCX. CPs are coming across. Flandra arrives. YCX will get out, and Kyle is done for. Bertle picks up that first kill. Flandra down to half HP already. And LGD, they have a lot of their ultimate tools still available if they want to work their way back through this river. They've got the man advantage. Shanks is going to whiff on the Rocket Belt Timbers combo. The Cannon Barrage comes back down. Hongat can't close enough for an impale. Petrified Gaze doesn't land, but Flandra's going to flash just to kill off YCX. Tarzan trying to hold the front line 1 versus 2, but Shanks is down. Hope shifting forward, though, able to create some serious damage done, and Hope is able to lift AL out of a bad fight. Grand Starfall down onto Tongguan. The Miasma can make sure Tarzan can't get close enough. Tongguan trying to play around vision, but Kyle is respawned and found the slippery snake, who's continuing to slither all around AL. He's pushed himself all the way up to the walls of the AL base, and nobody's really feeling confident enough to try and kill him. Oh my god, he's going for another TP play. Flandra cancel this one. Oh, he doesn't get it! Tongguan lives, but Hope the hero for AL.
What a team fight from Hope. That was absolutely ridiculous. That looked like a terrible setup for anyone's legend. Kyle obviously gets caught early trying to deliver Flandra into the rest of the team, but he's so separated that he dies as quickly as he makes his way in. The fight's not even over. Tarzan and YCX are skirmishing. Is this even good for the Pike?
If he can get Bertle a kill. He's got that TP shield. Oh my god, he uses Bertle as a way to get over the wall. Bone Skewer to pull Tarzan back closer, Aegis of Defense, they'll Buzz block any damage from the gangplank coming through. Flandra versus Birdall to now flash away. LGD are really greeding to try and find some of these low health bars. I don't know if they're going to get any of them. Maybe Flandra? Tongguan can't get close enough, Hung can't either. Extra TPs and resources used for LGD to just push AL out of their own jungle.
LGD lost control of this game for 2 minutes and are starting to make the biggest desperation plays that I've seen. I can't actually believe it. This looks like such a good engage for LGD. It looks like such a mistake from Kyle. Again, I understand the idea of wanting to use the Stand United to deliver Flandra with that Pop Blossom into the backline, but you do not have the health bar for this. Kyle dies instantly, Pop Blossom goes nowhere, and now you're staring down the barrel of a 4v5. Shanks whiffs his Rocket Belt ultimate, but you know what actually matters more than the ult landing? As it turns out, Tibbers just slamming away this entire fight. Flandra does a good job to lock them down, but look at the consistent damage that Hope is outputting in this fight. The moment that he arcane shifts forward, he is in a fantastic spot to completely take over. It's just better execution from AL in the fight. Xiaoya, YCX, they're not in a good position to take advantage of their range, and Hope just plays it better to win it for AL.
Man, Hope, I'm liking what I'm seeing, brother. There were some schmoves there. Positive arcane shift forward. The only tragedy here, K-Man. All right, hold on. We'll talk about it in a second. Delivering a Battle Shen through Grand Starfall. Map pressure at its finest here from AL. Out of nowhere, Tongguan has himself in a precarious spot. I'm not realizing Flandra didn't actually complete the Stand United, but hey, you gave Tarzan the shield. They do make the pick play happen. Tongguan will finally drop in his side lane.
The shield was the most important part of that play anyway, so it's fine. They're able to get the play down. That's how you take advantage of the missing resources from this Cassiopeia. This champion's not in a good spot to play side lane. Oh my god, Flandra's dead!
Oh my lord. Preview of what could happen for the rest of this game if AL don't get a bigger grasp. Speaking of grasp, there's Kyle grabbing 2 with the Pop Blossom, but where's my follow-up? Hope wasn't close enough. Shakes couldn't Rocket Belt in to find a big stun, and all right, it's more gold over to Birdall.
Okay, that actually really matters, as we're getting a replay of, oh,
wait.
No, he did complete this, and United, it just turns out it goes to where it was before the Pantheon ult.
So Tarzan has to fully land for Flandra to follow him, I guess is what we're learning, or I'm learning.
An interaction that I think we're both learning about in real time. Slayer, that's certainly interesting. I would be pausing the game and asking officials if that was correct. But hey, you know, to each their own. I guess if they don't want to make that pause happen. 2K gold lead here for LGD. Most notably, all of it is on Birdall. This gangplank is the win condition entirely for LGD. They are not out of this game by any stretch. Not only do they have that gold lead, but they have a comp that's perfectly set up to execute on it. They just can't make those teamfight mistakes. Xiaoya in particular has not been great in these 5v5s, but they are not taking the risk now. They're dancing around this Baron, and it's going to go down relatively quickly if AL don't join.
Trap line set up by Xiaoya. Tarzan has to take the brunt trying to walk through. Baron below 5k HP. YCX on the back line just throwing some Bone Skewers. Tarzan needs to get into this pit, but LGD, they feel a little shy. They don't want to flip this. Cannon Barrage is down. The Baron has reset. So AL call the bluff, and you can see they saw the HP on the Baron reset, and they're like, we have no reason to fight any further.
It's a big call from AL to say, hey, we know you're not going to force around here, but I understand you don't want to throw the game around this Baron 1 minute until Soul spawns for anyone's legend. That's where they want to utilize these resources. They don't want to waste everything, even at a Baron that could be valuable to them. This Soul is much, much more valuable to keep them up in terms of pacing with the stat gain that LGD are just naturally going to get. Their comp scales better. So, like the call, like the boldness from anyone's legend, and we really could be setting up for a 5v5 for the entire game around this Dragon Slayer.
45 seconds out. Take stock of the damage items just to talk about the scaling, right? Birdall, 3 items down. He is very problematic, even if he necessarily isn't at that huge crit marker we see a lot of gangplanks with. Hong has a lot of HP to burn through by this point, but this Cassio doesn't have the big damage yet. The Caitlyn isn't there quite at that moment. So if LGD can win this and stall out the Cloud Soul, they may be on to the scaling point that we've been hyping them up for, as LGD control the river for now.
As always, keep an eye on Kyle. If that Pop Blossom lands on more than 3 members, that could be a free fight win for AL. We've already seen what Hope can do if given some time. The setup is there. They just have to go out and execute as this Dragon spawns.
AL setting up shop here towards the bottom side of this river. Flandra is disconnected, but has that stand united. The True Shot Barrage will do some decent chunk damage. The Scuttle Crab is spawned to get rid of a lot of vision, but oh my god, there is a flank onto AL's side here. Birdall trying to work his way through a Tong 1, finds Petrifying Gaze onto Hope. Immediately has to be the stand united, but Hope should be able to drop. He's got a flash arcade shift, but will fall to Tong 1. Big bad Hope is down. Can Tarzan do the heavy lifting? Xiaoya got blown up by Shakes on the back end as Kyle pulls Hug away. Despite Hope dropping, the top side for AL is gonna bring home another fight win. Tarzan Grand Starfall take out Hug. YCX will be the only one to survive to tell the tale. No, he won't even. It's an AL ace.
The flank coming in from Cassiopeia feels like it is the defining moment of this entire game, but where's the damage? The Cassio goes down to trade for Hope's life, and there's nothing left. Tarzan completely obliterates the back end of that fight. Birdall is not enough to be able to carry the damage through for LGD. AL are able to clean up everything with their CC chaining. They get this soul. They're going to get the tower on the bottom side of the map as well. The gold lead for LGD has completely evaporated, and AL has immediately gotten back into this game. We're going to get a replay of exactly what happened here. Tung Yuan does find that flank immediately onto Hope. The stand united comes down to keep him alive for just long enough for him to be able to get out of that circumstance. It means that both Tung Yuan and Birdall have to overcommit, but where's my AD carry? Oh, the Caitlyn's dead already because Shanks is on the backline. The Caitlyn gone, no damage done. Birdall can't 1v9 at this point in the game just yet. And unfortunately for LGD, despite the really nice flank at the start of the fight, it's just not enough. If you were on something other than Cassio, maybe the flank goes a little bit better just because you have more tools to get back out, but the front to back is kind of what you needed to play, and AL said, we want this disconnected fight.
It was such a nice flank, but yep, Xiaoya really got hung out to dry. But good to see Shanks finally capitalize. He whiffed some tippers. He's been a bit, off in certain points of this series so far. That's the big clutch kill to find. And did we really ever doubt Tarzan? Even if he's not on a full-on carry, the Pantheon still packs enough of a punch. He is now the one holding the largest gold lead once again. Has the GA done for allowing to play make even further. And with that Cloud Soul, K-Man, how much harder of a game does this feel like for LGD?
I mean, this feels very, very scary. The amount of tools that AL now have consistently to be able to make these plays happen is massive. TP coming in from LGD, they're forcing now.
Oh, there's the Impale on to 2, followed up by YCX, but Kyle does hold Chai in the background. YCX gets popped here from Hope, who's untouched. Songwan throws out a good Petrifying Gaze, but Tarzan's fine. He's got the GA. He'll very easily trade his life out, but he won't even need to, because Hope, this time untouched, has enough in the tank to bring home another fight win. Xiaoya only able to get a desperate 1 trade kill. Hope has arrived to our series, a triple kill over to the Ezreal.
A triple kill for the Ezreal, and LGD's hopes might be going away along with their life in that fight. Baron going to be going down in favor of AL. They have the gold lead, they have map control, they have soul, they have everything in this game. We were worried about them getting outscaled in some of these team fights, but the reality of the situation is that if LGD never plays front to back, there is no outscaling to have. My Cassio is always on a flank. My Pyke is going in and dying before he can get ultimate off. The execution from LGD has been lackluster in this game, and it's taken them from a 2K gold lead in the exact stage where they're not supposed to get it to now being nearly out of this game.
We were asking to see if AL could continue winning in newer ways, right, K-Man? That's the future outlook. And while we talked a lot about wanting to see it be the top side, I think it is really refreshing to see Hope on one of his most comfortable champions just doing tons of damage across this fight. You just can't ignore this Ezreal. He's just such a problem. And you see it across this entire replay.
I mean, Hope has been phenomenal this whole game. He is very much going to be in the running for player of the game. Tarzan, I think, once again, going to have a big conversation about that. But, I mean, the state that they were in before these plays was not great for them. The fact that they've just been able to outplay every single one of these fights as they now use this Baron buff to push down the mid lane. It's all AL all the time in this series. We are seeing the best version of them that we could possibly see in these games. You can criticize some of their early decisions and some of their early fights, but when it matters the most, these players are stepping up, even the ones that were not quite as good throughout a majority of the split. Using that Baron buff to push down to mid lane now, we get that push coming down on the top side from the Shen as well. This is going to be a very difficult defense from LGD.
It's just too rough to be stretched this thin when they want to group up and play front to back. I think that's such a good point you've continued to make, K-Man. we've yet to see a fight really fit LGD standards, even if they have scaled up some. Good petrifying gaze on the Grand Starfall, but Flandra's going to flash right onto Tongwan's head to ensure the taunt. He goes gold to get away from Tibbers, but Shanks and Allvale are still there to find that kill. Even with the map enclosing on LGD, AL still play it as wide as they possibly can. And now they have to push on the top side, looking for an inhibitor turret. There's a wave to answer in the mid lane. LGD are being pulled apart seam by the seam.
AL are just dominating. Hung is the target.
Hung.
He's gone. Deleted from the
God.
map, and that could be game here.
Hope is just cooking, man. Damage is so unrelenting. That's your tank Skarner. I think it's just turned into mincemeat by this point. Hope looking to bring the game home on the point man. On to the Nexus turrets here. It's Birdall using the Cannon Barrage to get rid of the wave, but the first Nexus turret will drop. Birdall on the wrong side of everything as Kyle once again going for the stand. United Blossom that will find another kill. YCX drops. Tarzan gonna flash around to Shalia's head. The inhibitor turret will not save you. Another kill over to AEL. They're just picking LGD off one by one. And there is Birdall dropping. Tongwan, the only one left up. AEL, it may have been a bit murkier in the mid game, but they bring it home hard into the late phase, and they take a 2-0 lead in our lower bracket bout.
It looked a little contentious, Slayer. It looked a little up in the air, but far be it from me to say that AL can't have a 9K gold lead in around 6-ish minutes because they were down 2,000 gold. They swing it back to a 7K gold lead after just a couple of fights. You know, we were talking about how LGD had the scaling advantage, but what we did not account for was that one of these teams is better in fights than the other, and that was very, very clear. They absolutely needed to step up in those team exchanges. I was getting concerned about the way that they were playing the map, utilizing the Grand Starfalls. All of that goes away when your AD carry and Hope is popping off in fights, when you're finding good angles for Flandra to be able to get into the backline on Shen, and specifically when Tarzan once again gets to take over on a champion he has become very, very well known for.
And still, the headline to me that you really started pushing after that Game 1 draft is that AL, access to their most comfortable champions, it really feels like everybody is meeting the mark and some exceeding it, right? Game 1, Tarzan Neferi, super big comfort champion for him. And even guys like Flandra on the Scion looked good. Kyle is an amazing Bard player. He was nice. The bottom lane, I think it's two of their most comfortable champions. Again, outside of the bot lane play that might have really sold this game from Kyle, he was wonderful on the Nico. And like you mentioned, Hope has now got to play Varus and Ezreal, and he has been very good in this series on both of those. And those are two really good signs and reasons why this series might be done and dusted already.
He is just, he's so comfortable. Everyone on the team is so comfortable right now. When you look at some of their most played champions, not just this split, but throughout their career, that's what AL have drafted. Like throughout this entire series, you're the most played, the most comfortable. I mean, even stylistically, it's everything that you could possibly ask for. For LGD, I understand the idea of the gangplank and the pike. And, you know, I've talked about this before. I do get the idea that, hey, if you really do think that you are the underdog or that you're not exactly the favorite in a series, throw some stuff at the wall. See what sticks and try and catch your opponents off guard. I think playing standard comps can sometimes just be a little bit difficult if you feel like you're going to execute worse. But the pike was not it in this game. It never really found any advantages. Even early on, we weren't finding those roams to be particularly effective. You burned flashes, but for what? Like, you never actually did anything when you burned those flashes. Exactly what I was talking about in the game. It's all well and good to get them, but you have to do something with them. And even with the gold lead they were able to get on Gangplank from overloading on the top side, all of it was fictitious because this Gangplank can't 1v5. He's not that kind of champion anymore in the game. You have all of this setup, all of this teamfight engage on the other side. It just overall was better execution from AL, and it's what we expected to see coming into this series.
I don't really want to, hanker too much on one selection in this draft. It's such a tough spot to be in with when you select Caitlyn, because Caitlyn is obviously always been known as, like, when you look at her graph of power, it's like a big cavern, right? Like really good early laning game champion, maybe the worst mid game champion when it comes to AD carries, and then late game, especially now, she really scales up. Build issues I had aside, with putting the pike with it and really indexing it in the early game when your entire team was set up for the late game, you can really see the issues that you put so much pressure on Hung to be the really big setup guy. I just wonder, looking back with hindsight, like if we had just picked maybe a less lane threat to try and help Hung set up better for engages, maybe this looks a bit better. That's nitpicking. Maybe I just don't like Pyke a lot in competitive play, but it's small things like that that can make a difference. And when we go back to these highlights, again, around that mid-game, there were some fights that were really sketchy here for AL.
I mean, it wasn't looking good. It really wasn't. Like, this was a 2K gold lead for LGD throughout the entire mid-game. And when you're talking about a GP, Cassio, even Caitlyn comp, Skarner having a gold lead, that's very scary to play into. I had a couple of major concerns, though. I agree with you that the Caitlyn pick was bad. The execution was worse. I mean, if you're going to play Caitlyn, you can't go down 40 CS to Ezreal isolated.
No.
Like, when both supports are roaming, that can't happen. That is just unacceptable in terms of how this was played out. Xiaoya's positioning in these team fights was not particularly good. And as much as I think, you know, everybody is kind of on the Cassio train right now, I know I'm a lot lower on that champ than it seems like other people are. I know a lot of people really like Cassiopeia. If you're playing Cassio with a Gangplank and you've got a Skarner and a Pyke for setup, the last thing I want to see is you trying to flank every fight. Like, every single one. There was no front to back this entire game from Tung Yuan. They didn't find any sort of consistent engages. We were playing melee range Caitlyn in some of these team fights. It just really felt like you had the tools and you didn't use them well enough. You had the opportunity to win this game, and it never came to fruition.
Really good point to make that, like, Hope just goes up multiple waves of CS twice. We won't know who makes the call, but for this game 3, can we please not make my AD carry full walk top to overload for a turret? Like, it's valuable. Like, it definitely got the value they intended. Birdall was super fed. They got first turret again. They did it in both games with the Grubs, but man, it's just killing Xiaoya's momentum at all in these games. And well, maybe we'll see them index a bit more to play for him in this game, because Birdall was super fed, and also the Gangplank really struggled to get up and going. I mean, this guy, you mentioned it was a 2K gold lead. Birdall was 2K up this whole game. Into these pretty big fights, he was like a 3-item Gangplank with his Cannon Barrage passive scaled up decently well. He's not really able to have a big impact, so it's a tough spot to be in. We'll see what LGD decide to cook up here with one more game lost, ending their season here in Split 2.
Unfortunately, I do think we got a good glimpse as to why Gangplank has not been super meta over the past couple of years in this one, where even with the gigantic lead, it's just so difficult. True. It's tough. Like, Gangplank is a tough champion to be able to pilot, not just in terms of, obviously, the mechanical barrier to execution, but he takes so long to set up in these fights. If you don't have river control playing Gangplank, if you don't have a lot of good vision, it is really hard to be able to pilot that champion well. If Kyle, like in this exchange, Kyle does pull apart LGD, and now LGD have to walk forward. Well, now Gangplank doesn't have his barrels set up, so we just don't have the damage in this fight. Like, Hope is able to do more damage than the Gangplank, despite the fact that the GP has a 2K gold lead, and that's just the really tough part of this comp. Obviously, not having an 80 carry, because they got bursted down pretty early on here, is also not ideal, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to we tried something, it didn't work, and now we're down 0-2 against a team that, you know, we need to really start stepping up against. It's our season on the line.
We'll have to see what the game plan is there for LGD. They definitely got creative in the Game 2 draft, so there is still a lot of pretty meta compositions they can go towards. That they left up a lot of champions, especially in, like, when you think about jungle. We still have a lot of those potent 2v2 bottom lanes that we can go towards, right? Like, I know we got rid of Ezreal, but we still talk about Lucian Emilio. Ashe Seraphine's going to be out there and floating around. Corki Nami also, if they want to play more for the bottom lane. But speaking on the bottom lane conversation, I know Tarzan ends up, like, you saw the damage numbers. I really hope the damage go crazy diff doesn't get him the MVP here. He was up a ton of gold, but again, he was playing into a tank Skarner. I'm terrified, K-Man, that we're going to give Tarzan another player of the game, where I really just think it needs to be Hope.
I think both have really good arguments. I think Hope was the most important in the fights that really mattered. Tarzan...
That's why it's the difference for me.
Yeah, Tarzan had a lot of moments in the mid game that I think kept his team there. When you're talking about a lot of those 1-for-1 trades, a lot of them were Tarzan, you know, at least being able to pull something back, flashing in and making sure he can secure kills onto someone like Xiaoya, overextending. That was really important to be able to keep gold in the pocket of AL, and we also think about a lot of the bot lane plays that they made. That was Tarzan's, like, main contribution to the game for me, was seeing all of the pressure that was being put onto the top side coming in from LGD and making sure that the bot side was receiving an equal amount of pressure from the Pantheon. I don't think either of them would be wrong for me, and unfortunately, KDA always wins, Slayer. You must understand. He went 10-1-8. He's gonna get MVP.
Stop doing my Ezreal. That guy played a phenomenal Ezreal game. Yeah, yeah. You know what? I want the Ezreal to get a player of the game. Shocker. Shocker from Slayer
Shocker.
here. Tarzan, yeah, listen, all right, whatever. He gets another player of the game, cruising towards a player of the series, the way the King of the Jungle seems to have returned to a high level of form in this one.
Ooh,
Okay,
Avery.
hold on. I'm getting angry now. This is not a unanimous MVP win. This is not. We just watched it. It was the Defiri game. All right. Wow. That's gotta be a record, nonetheless. I can't remember ever seeing back-to-back unanimous MVPs in 2-game wins like that. So, rare air for Tarzan there.
Can we make it 24 for 24 in game number 3? I think that's what Tarzan's probably looking for at this point. He has been unbelievable throughout the series up until this point, regardless of whether you think he was better than Hope or not. He has been fantastic with his execution, and we'll see. We'll see what he can do. We'll see if he gets some votes stolen away from him in this final game, or maybe if LGD can fight back, because, again, we keep talking about this playstyle that, AL are going for. We're getting 3 games deep on Fearless, and that's when you start to get concerned about these specific playstyles coming apart, we'll just say, in terms of having to branch out.
Anyone's Legend are running thin on comfort champions to bring this series home, but Tarzan is very upset to once again be in the lower bracket and looking to trudge his way through to maybe another MSI performance for AL, but they still got to look at who's in front of them. LGD, out of room for error, backs against the wall. Will they be able to extend their season, or are we bringing the brooms out for the Pandas? Find that out and much more after another short break. Back in a flash here on LPL English as we are into the thick of it with one of our lower bracket matchups here. Anyone's Legend up 2-0 over LGD. Game 1, complete stomp. Game 2, a little bit rockier, but overall the sentiment has been AL have been in control. But, K-Man, maybe the biggest surprise that we weren't necessarily expecting is just how much they've been able to rely on their inconsistent AD carry today, who has been the big player today, Mr. Hope over Xiaoya.
I'll be very real with you, Slayer and Twitch chat. This has been a gap. This has been a monumental gap in the AD carry role. Right now, so far, Hope is a combined up 90 CS across the first 15 minutes of the game in games 1 and 2. It's disgusting. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, like, how this has played out. It should be impossible. I mean, Xiaoya was playing Jhin into Varus in game 1. You can farm for free on Jhin, even into Varus. You're getting shoved in for, you know, most of that laning phase. Going down 40 CS on Caitlyn pre-15 minutes, tough. That's a tough game, especially with the way that the team fights ended up playing out. The bot lane has to step up for LGD. We highlighted YCX. Obviously, the Pyke is kind of a unique pick. It can fall behind, but Xiaoya in particular, he has to be a bigger part of this game plan because they cannot win if he's going to lose like this.
I'm very curious to see if they're just like, game 3, Xiaoya, let's get you ultimately comfortable. Maybe this is the game to look for the Draven. I think it's worth saying. If it could potentially be the last game for LGD of the split, maybe look for a Draven kill lane. You know, Draven Blitzcrank. How fun would that be with where we know YCX and Xiaoya are with their career-long champion pools? That's definitely a kill lane.
Yeah, hey, Draven Blitz would be fun. Draven Thresh is actually kind of realistic, I think, for them to pull out in this game. I definitely think that that's possible. Equally kill-oriented if you want to play Thresh like that. Certainly not a champion that is averse to trying to make some plays. I would consider Thresh to be a playmaker akin to a lot of these other hook champions, but it's curious to see if they want to go for that aggression. Have they lost some confidence on the bottom side? We're going to learn pretty quickly here as we get into the ban phase. It's the exact same as it's been this entire series. LGD is going to be on blue side. AL is going to have that first pick, and they say, no kill lane, no Draven. We're not bailing you out. We're not like Weibo. We're not going to let your best champion through when your back's up against the wall.
Damn, that's cutthroat. I am sad. Listen, the Draven would have been fun. I still wish we'd gotten it when Xiaoya and Jackie Love went up against each other because the storylines there are so fun. Nonetheless, the greediest lore-based AD carry will not hit the rift here for Xiaoya. Jarvan, Seraphine, Orianna, yeah, like these champions have always been out of it, and we talked a little bit coming out of game 2. We're out of cover champions for Mr. Hope. We're out of champions where you can kind of leave Hope on his island. So it looks like we're finally going to start having to talk about those 2v2 lanes that have been the focal point of the meta. It's going to be Lucian Melio. The Lucian, of course, coming across first.
Lucian has been one of his better strong side AD carries throughout this split. Very clearly, we've seen 2 weak side performances from Hope where he's eventually been able to pop off in some team fights, but being able to set yourself up for a more dominant lane is very exciting. The Lulu locked in, very likely going to be Yunara Lulu coming in for LGD as the potential answer here, still left up and available. I would be shocked if this is a misfortune, just in terms of the setup. I think that would be very confusing for me. Yunara feels like a very clean lock, and it gives a lot of tempo and momentum over to LGD to basically pick whatever they want on the top side of the map. But here I am, getting proven wrong. I'm going to say it right now. I really do not like this. I think MF Lulu is a very difficult lane to play into Lucian Melio, and we have a macro threat in the mid lane now. This misfortune is going to get pulled apart.
Oh, man. Is this the most anti-synergy bottom lane you could possibly cook up? Lulu MF, like, they just don't fit. They don't fit at all. It's like round hole square peg. Like, I can make 500 metaphors. I don't know what the call is to do this, but I can safely tell you this is the first time I've ever casted Misfortune Lulu as a 2v2 bottom lane. And at this point in my career, I've casted thousands of bottom lane matchups. I can never recollect seeing this before. Really head scratching. They're going to grab the Wukong to finish out the first phase, but I'm already in love with the AL draft.
Certainly is much more cohesive with the way that you want to play the map. I will say, you are, and I don't really agree with this. Some people might claim this to be a slightly low damage comp with TF and Lucian. I don't agree with that idea. I think that there is a way to, you know, potentially draft some beefier topside members and make this a little bit more difficult for them to play their fights in the late game, but their mid game priority is going to be off the charts here. And I would be so scared of multiple different junglers coming in here from AL that are still left up and available. You know what's still on the table that I'd actually be terrified of in this instance? Personally, Lee Sin. That would be the thing that I'm like, oh god, if I give Tarzan Lee Sin here, I'd be terrified. The Akali ban gonna come out. That's almost certainly a ban for Shanks, just kind of expecting this TF to potentially be flexed topside for Flandre. Maybe Flandre plays the Akali as well. You never really know. Could be a bit of a double flex there. But definitely curious to see these more aggressive topside bans coming out from both sides.
LeBlanc going to be... so they're fully expecting Flandre to take the TF top. Would be hilarious if AL try this gambit where they pick Aurora here, and then they think, all right, I want to see the full LGD draft, and then we'll decide who plays TF and who plays Aurora. I don't think that'll happen, but that's a very funny little gambit that only AL could really go for, knowing Flandre and Shanks' pools. Gnar and Vayne once again going to be a band away from Birdall. So AL expecting Birdall to get the counter pick on the B5 once again and just try to protect Flandre as best as they can.
I mean, they need a team fight Wombo, but they're going to pick Ahri in the mid lane instead for some mid-game pick potential.
All right.
Where does the MF fit in this comp? It does feel like you want to play for the early game. Man, I talked about the Lee Sin. I'm serious. This would be devastating in draft here if they went for it. Cassante also available. Ornn available for tanks on the top side if you just want to play relatively safe. Play that TF in the mid lane. Both are options. You pick MF if you want the Wombo combo. Wukong engage makes a lot of sense to play for team fights to try to play around this bullet time, but now Ahri wants to go for some picks. I just feel like there's a lack of synergy with what LGD have drafted so far, and this Cassante makes it even more difficult to find pressure in those side lanes. Cassante shuts down so much of that tempo, basically forces LGD to pick something that can just be a little bit more dominant in the early game. Maybe Jace could be a potential option here for Birdall. He's been a big Jace player in the past. Could definitely see that as an answer, but whatever jungler comes in here for AL, I imagine it's going to be something that can really set the tempo.
Yeah, if this Cassante doesn't get completely screwed over and this isn't a Gwen lock-in for Birdall, nobody's killing Cassante. Take a bow, Mr. K-Man. You called this one coming through. It does end up being the R5 Lee Sin. So fun that we're going to see Lee Sin with Tarzan at the helm. Well, this is the only way that you can reliably get rid of a scaled Cassante. That was the point I wanted to make. It was Fortune ain't cutting it. Ahri ain't cutting it. It'd have to be Gwen. Or we're just going to let Flandre become the unkillable Cassante that Showmaker nearly took his camera out for.
Yeah, you know, there are a couple options that are being hovered. I don't like them nearly as much. The Renekton's going to get locked in. Renekton is a very different champion than I think what people kind of view him as right now, because he can be really effective on these flank angles in team fights, more so after a couple of the changes at the beginning of the year. That being said, what is the game plan here from LGD? How does this Misfortune fit into this comp at all? You really have no protection for her on the backline unless Lulu is just going to sit there. Renekton and Ahri are going to be looking for flanks to set up for a Wukong engage, but you're looking for a perfect team fight. This Lee Sin has so much agency in this draft. I am worried a bit about, I guess, the theoretical lack of damage coming in from AL in the late game, but if they get that early lead through that proactive tempo that they've so consistently been able to generate for themselves, they're not going to need that. That Lucian's going to be so out of control that you won't care. Cassante's going to be unkillable.
Yeah. There is also no, like, late-game threat here, right? Like, both these teams have handshook the idea that we're going to try and win or die on the mid-game at this point. This is one of those rare games where you said it best, K-Man. The best scaling champion in this entire game is a Cassante. That doesn't normally happen. Like, it's not Misfortune, it's not Ahri, no Renekton, it's not Lucian, it's not TF, it's not Lee Sin. It's the Cassante. Interesting approach to the draft here for LGD, who are on their last legs for Split 2 here. If they drop this one, they bow out in a top 6 finish, which would be great, but nobody wants to get swept in a best of 5.
Nobody wants to get swept, and nobody wants to go out, you know, feeling dejected. It looked like they were a bit tilted at the end of Game 2 with the way that things broke down, the lead that they had that they couldn't keep going. This is their chance to fight back. LGD have already overperformed and shocked the world so much by even being here in the first place. Can they shock the world by winning Game 3?
AL fans staying as loud as they were in Game 1 with our awesome Jaios, because they are feeling as confident as I'm sure Mr. Tarzan is, locking in the Lee Sin and looking to take over this early game. I'm curious what his path looks like. There's so many avenues. That's why Lee Sin is so fun. I feel like into a Wukong, he could even, you know, warrant potentially invading at some points. 3-camp ganks are always a custom with Lee Sin. Tarzan is definitely the guy you want to keep an eye on in this early.
I mean, we'll see how this bot lane wants to play out.
Maybe bot, yeah.
Honestly, MF Lulu, if there is an advantage to it, it's that you can pressure a ton in the first couple of levels. This is going to be a very scary duo to play a 2v2 against. Unfortunately, Lucian Milio, probably the strongest 2v2 in the game, so not exactly the bot lane you probably want to play it into, but the level 2 hit early here from LGD. Going to use this pressure as much as they can. Eventually, this will become a little bit more difficult for them, but you know, the idea behind it is probably going to use that Lulu poke to enable Misfortune to continue to push in, try to play around these dragons. I imagine that's going to be the main idea. The question is, will the pathing coming in from both of these junglers delay that or change it up in any way, or are we just going to see that bot lane be left alone?
Okay, so Tarzan resets off 3 camp to get a long sword, and he knows that Hong is now on his red buff. I think Tarzan is trying to angle to fight for this bottom crab and feel like he's the stronger one. Only problem is his bottom lane is getting pushed in, but looks like Tarzan will arrive at that bot crab maybe a bit behind Hong, but again, a bit stronger. So we'll see if our first little appearance for this Tarzan Lee Sin is imminent.
It's got to be really, really cautious, though, on the bottom side here because of this MF Lulu. The last thing you want to do is make a mistake this early into the game and put yourself behind. Both junglers are going to be level 4 approaching this crab, but if I'm Tarzan, we'll see how aggressive he wants to play this. Shanks is making his way down. They could be looking for this Wukong now.
Oh, there's the Resonating Strike already through. Hong going to have to use the Trickster to get over the wall here. Tarzan ward hops to follow. Flash for flash. Tarzan wants Hong's number, and he's going to drop him. The longsword difference comes through, and our back-to-back player of the game claims first blood.
Really is a back dip.
Ward hop, Resonating Strike. Ooh! Nice charm there for Tangguan. Does have flash if he needs to. Another ward hop, gets the slow. Does he hit the Resonating Strike? No, the Sonic Wave whiffs. But Tarzan has left an impression early on LGD as a whole.
Slayer, I was so vocal in draft. I was so vocal. Please, LGD, don't do this. Don't give Tarzan Lee Sin because he is going to destroy the game. That's exactly what he's doing. Polymorph coming through, but now that's on cooldown. Hope's going to step up and trade more aggressively. We've hit the level 3 spike. I don't know how much easier it gets here for LGD. This is the exact spot where Lucian Milio is going to get a lot stronger. Crab going down for Lee Sin, who's now invading onto the bottom side of the map as well. Tarzan is looking not just to take over this game early, but to punish this bot lane over and over again.
I think YCX has just pathed himself out of a disgusting 3v1. Kyle is going to spot him, but good on him to walk further away. AL assumed that both bottom laners reset, but you've really focused so well on the CS gap with Hope. That is a full wave and then some that Xiaoya just missed out on. Oh, Bullet Rain actually cancels the back. Okay, that's pretty significant, actually.
Yeah, that actually does matter, at least a little bit for tempo here. Xiaoya has not been in a great spot in terms of these laning phases in the first couple games of this series. Maybe the call was just to try and make sure this MF is as comfortable as possible in the 2v2. But what that does is open up the map here. Shanks isn't even level 6 yet. He doesn't even have his ultimate, and yet somehow he is dominating the shove and roam macro game. Already a really good look for the Twisted Fate in the mid lane here. The question now for me when it comes to LGD is what can they look for in the mid game? If you want to talk about their way back in here, Wukong Ahri is going to be one of the scarier pick duos that you can get. Ahri in general is going to be really good at being able to try and find avenues in this mid game to be able to, you know, land a charm, pull some gold back, be able to find some skirmishes here or there. If you can get some gold into the middle of the map, things can get a little bit more difficult. You just have to be so scared now of an accelerated Lee Sin.
Good call, though, on those playmaking ultimates that you pointed out. Spirit Rush already up here. Hong should be able to get over to level 6 sooner rather than later. Don't think there's any crabs for him to be able to overcome that mark. As long as Flandra is just staying decently close in CS and scaling as a tank, he's doing fine on this weak side strategy. I think, you know, we've seen Flandra go for a lot of things this split. He's played some Vayne, the TF top, but he's really been in his, you know, I say modest bag, just playing these weak side tanks. The Scion was great, and I think the Cassante is even better set up here for Flandra, who across, you know, his career has been, you know, he's had his ups and downs came in, but what I always respect the most about Flandra is that he just, one, really likes to learn the meta and the champions to come up into top lane, plays them religiously in solo queue. That's what we saw with the Vayne. But two, he's willing to play so many different roles out of the top side. And today, it's been the weak side tank guy.
Well, let's not forget that last year as well, we're talking about what worked for AL in Split 2 of 2025. This guy was on tank duty every game. He was the best tank player in the world for large sections of last year. It's why AL felt so consistent in a lot of these team fights. And he's very much recognized that, yes, these counter picks can work in the right situation, but me playing weak side, absorbing that pressure, recognizing that I'm going to be better than most of the people I'm playing into in team fights anyways is, you know, a huge asset for AL because they can put their resources elsewhere, and that's certainly been the case here today. The bot lane push now going in favor of anyone's legend. Lucian Milio moving forward with Dragon up on the map. That could mean that Lee Sin's going to show some attention to the bottom side very, very shortly. Shanks and Tung Yuan level 7. That means these ultimates are available for the mid laners. Shanks going to have that push, so he's going to be able to walk down a little bit quicker, and I would imagine that Dragon priority because of that is going to go in favor of AL if they want it here.
Look at that. They have no eyes on Shanks, no idea where Tarzan is. And Xiaoya and YCX have run all the way off of their bottom turret. They are venturing as a duo really far away here. And this could just drop even more CS here from Xiaoya. They're finally going to walk back forward now that Hung is on the bot side to be able to kind of provide some alleviating the stress of the potential overload there. But that just means that AL are able to pick up the first strike of the game. The earliest we've seen any of our teams, well, mostly AL, pick up the first strike of the game here. So they're going to get the first strike down before 8 minutes and are on great pace for a future Dragon Soul as an option of a win con.
Yeah, the ping's coming down onto the grubs from LGD, but that is the main thing I'm concerned about here, is being able to take Dragon for free before grubs even spawn with a comp like TF, Lee Sin, Cassante on the top side that's going to at least be some sort of influence. You are going to get a little bit scared. That Bramble Vest completed now on the top side as well for Flandra, so he is actually a bit of a problem already in terms of being able to be taken down by this Renekton Wukong combo if they do want to go for a fight onto the top side. Hope going to get the back off, so not going to get stopped this time, but Hung going to start up on these grubs. Tarzan still on the bottom side. Looks like he's okay trading this objective, and I'm certainly not going to argue with him with the game he's played so far, but certainly going to be at least a small win, a consolation prize for LGD.
Definitely the worst game. Another not good game, I think, for the Grubs combo. LGD are a mid-game team fighting spike team. They don't have really a ton of side lane pressure. Maybe Birdall can really... once again, LGD might be set up to play for this. Oh my god, they're doing it again, K-Man, right as I'm talking about it. All right, we're going to overload to... I don't think you kill Flandra this game. He's playing Cassante, one of the worst champions you could dive. He has TP'd back, and they're going to try and overload with Grubs as 4, it looks like, to get this first turret, but this is just all for hope to get the real win here. Let's see. They need to at least get this kill. Oh,
yeah, Tarzan is here. This is not diveable. Flandra will not die if they go under tower.
And there's no wave. The wave's already gone too. Nice to see AL kind of adapting and learning, and yeah, thank you to our observers. Go bot side. This is what we like to call 80 carry heaven, folks.
I mean, yeah, it's 80 carry heaven for hope.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
not this guy.
Is this why you pick the MF? To rotate top lane and to try and take down a turret? I mean, at this point, like, why not pick Ziggs if this is going to be the mentality with how you're playing a lot of these laning phases? It just feels like LGD had a structure that worked for them in a couple of their scrims and are sticking to that a little bit too rigidly in these first couple of games. They're losing out in terms of pressure on the map. It's not exactly a massive win or anything like that for AL, but the last thing you want to do is allow this Lucian to start scaling again. You know, when we talk about the quote-unquote low damage that AL has in the later part of the game, when you think about things that can rectify that, first off, TF is going to do some damage, and that Roa has already been completed, but Lucian can hurt if you give him free towers and free kills and a lot of gold. Like, that negates a lot of the lack of scaling that this team has, and so it's just really risky to try and make a trade like this for someone like MF.
And scaling doesn't really need to be a conversation if you just snowball this game out of control, and what can help with that is that first item spikes are super strong. Tarzan has an Eclipse already. There's no world where Hung could even think about 1v1ing him. Essence Reaver soon to be completed for Hope, another great first item power spike. And those two are the two for AL right now, holding on to the most significant gold leads. So Tarzan is going to just try and look and to create even more havoc. He's eyeing a mid lane gank. Flash Gold Card is going to force a Spirit Rush dash and Flash from Tongwon. So Shanks was able to trade his Flash, get that ult off the board, and you best believe Tarzan's going to look to revisit this little category.
Incredibly worthwhile play for Tarzan to make. He shows up, immediately gets ult and flash out of the Ahri. Again, I cannot stress enough, LGD's biggest strength in the mid game here is their ability to find these picks through Wukong and Ahri. That's what you draft for. Bullet time's obviously going to be effective in these exchanges, but it's going to be so hard for you to find consistent setups against a team that can pull you apart macro-wise. That being said, they still are looking for that combo, but if you burn the flash, if you burn the ultimate on Tongyuan, if he can't actually play aggressive, if he's getting shoved in the mid lane, this Ahri is almost entirely negated in terms of what her actual strengths are of this comp. AL recognizing that well and making the point happen. Yeah?
Okay, man. What is my misfortune building? Oh my god.
Well.
Okay, man. I'm going to go down a little bit of a tangent here. My NACL casters, I don't know if Rafa's still out there listening. I had a bit of a mental breakdown in the old chat watching a Game 5 MF build. It was not even nearly as bad as this. I cannot believe that is a Serpent's Fang rush out of Misfortune. I'm actually appalled, folks. I'm not appalled by that though. Holy Ward Hop Dragon's Rage kick. We thought he was going to revisit the Ahri. No Spirit Rush, no Flash, and Tarzan's got another.
I'm sorry, Slayer. We might be getting 24 out of 24 of these votes. This Lee Sin is popping off in this game. I'm still trying to mentally process Serpent's Fang Misfortune on the bottom side of the map here, but, you know, that'll be saved for another instance. Shanks is using his ult on the bottom side. We might be worrying about this MF a little bit sooner than we thought. This wave is going to get pushed in. I was curious if they were going to die, but Wukong might be the target in the mid lane as well. It's just gonna be Dragon. Perfectly fine to take the objective. Who cares about these, you know, picks that we're looking for? We're gonna get free picks. We're gonna capitalize on the burn flashes, and we're gonna get the objective because of it. As the TP comes down in the mid lane, Ahri still has no flash.
All right. Gonna jump on with the Cyclone on top of Shanks. He doesn't have flash either. And the Spirit Rush back up for Tango. I'm gonna hit the charm, force the Breath of Life. Hope is able to get himself out. There's that pick potential LGD drafted for, and they're able to get AL off of that Mountain Drake. Tarzan's strong, but are AL feeling this brass to try and force their way back in to play for the Dragon stacking? LGD are out of a lot of their critical ultimates. Dragon not low enough. Sonic Wave going to connect. Immediate Wild Growth comes out into YCX. Hope going to drop the Culling. YCX using the Dragon as a protection. The TP from Flandra coming through here. Burnall does not interrupt. All of a sudden now, AL feeling a lot stronger. YCX double tap down, and a flash out of the pit from Shalia. AL are just that strong, and they're able to get the second Drake of the game.
Even with a pick onto Shanks because he overextends looking for the flashless Ahri in the mid lane, they still don't have the combat power to be able to win in the mid game. You drafted Wukong Ahri, and you can't win a mid game fight around Dragon. This is a nightmare situation for LGD. I get the gold lead's not ballooned entirely out of control, but these are free extra stats. It's going to be Chemsoul this game for AL as well. This is going to be such a difficult game for them to be able to find their way back in. And again, I know I apologized earlier for this, but Slayer, we really are looking at a Tarzan masterclass. This Lee Sin was a mistake to give over, and I think we very much are on our way to potentially seeing 3 straight MVPs for a player that we needed to see step up today. Let's not forget, we had major questions about this team's mid-game macro. Look at the way that they're playing the map right now. It's everything we could have wanted.
Hey, listen, I had to go to bat for my Ezreal. I'll always have to go to bat for my great Ezreal performances, but the one thing that I will always hold true, it's never a bad thing when Lee Sin is in the meta, because it is one of the most fun champions to watch the best of the best navigate on. And like you mentioned, Tarzan is putting together an absolute delectable treat as he tries to go for the rare 24 out of 24 player of the game award, and he is cruising towards that. I think he's on pace. What an accomplishment that would be. What just a general bounce back this was for AL. It's really easy to just write this series off and be like, oh yeah, this was a group Nirvana team. This is LGD. This is expected. But you have to factor in momentum. You got to factor in the stakes for a team like AL to be in the lower bracket. After that, you know, decimation for WE, this is a really resounding bounce back for the Pandas.
I completely agree. AL has looked fantastic so far. I will say, we are talking them up. This game isn't over quite yet. LGD definitely have some ways back in. When you draft the MF, you draft for the combo, right? You draft for this bullet time to eventually make a big impact. And you know, for as much as we talk about them not having a ton of synergy within their comp, you land a Cyclone, maybe even a Wild Growth knockup onto some primary members here in a team fight. You get a couple of seconds of that bullet time off. That could be enough to allow the Renekton and the Ahri to be able to play out some of these exchanges a little easier. Right now, unfortunately, that bullet time just used to clear the wave. Luckily enough, they're going to keep that turret alive, but you got to use those big cooldowns just defensively at this point. You're in a very scary spot.
I think that's a good play from Xiaoya. You look at the objective timers right now. Chemtech Drake is still about 2.5 minutes out. Nobody's going to really dance with Baron with such a low gold lead, so bullet time should be back and available before Xiaoya is really going to have to use that to bring the hurt and shred some shields.
He's going to have to shred those shields. He certainly invested into it.
That he did.
He's definitely saying that that's his job this game, and will be, you know, along for the ride. I do get a little concerned about the way that these mid-game skirmishes go if you don't have a river priority, but with 2 minutes left until this dragon spawns, this third dragon of the game, it will be soul point for AL. LGD are going to drop that Rift Herald that they were able to get. See if they can get some gold off this.
Crashed into mid-tier 1. They have brought all 5 members here, Birdal as well, but the minion wave is gone. Pulling down from home, do some light poke. Forces the polymorph out of YCX. Here's Flandra arriving to the party. Birdal gonna have to worry about a Natofo Strikes pull back, but he's able to dash out of that range. AL able to keep their mid-tier 1 turret up. Just some plates gain there for LGD.
I mean, it's gold, and gold, I guess, is important. Unfortunately, where you look at where the gold is on AL, obviously TF has a gold lead. Shocker. That's going to happen in a game like this, but 600 gold up on Tarzan. He's hitting level 12. He's getting closer to that second item spike. If he can get that before this dragon spawns, that's a huge game changer. It basically makes it completely unfightable for LGD if they wanted to go for that play. More importantly, I'm looking at, you know, the bot lane being a big problem. This is the power spike for Hope. He has hit that 2-item, you know, big spike, and especially with Xiaoya building, you know, Serpent's Fang into potentially LDR, second item here on the other side. This is going to be a very big Lucian, and I'm not sure the MF is going to have the power to be able to answer.
There's definitely a very vast difference in power dynamic going on. That's all I'm going to say. IE, once the IE does come through, Hope is going to be very, very scary into a team that is just not tanky enough to deal with a Lucian with the constant protection of this Emilio. Tangwan is committing to a very deep little flank setup. Flandra just saw that flank get used. He's going to use the Blast Cone to actually go over Tangwan. And then Hong is going to use another enhanced Blast Cone to leave. And my mid laner is yet to move. He is really investing in this covert operation.
Secret Agent Tungyuan. He's absolutely made his way behind enemy lines. They have no clue.
All right, let's see if he can find a clutch charm. He needs to look for, you know, Hope to find that, but I don't think his flank's going to manifest because Flandra's going to push tempo. There's Tangwan finally going to go after Hope. He's going to flash get the Breath of Light, desperately trying to kite away from Hung and Tangwan, but the Melio healing is enough to buy him time to make sure he trades 1-for-1 as Flandra goes all out and shakes the double kill, and off to the bot side, Tarzan kills off a little Lulu. YCX down, and now the flank setup, the covert operation has been exposed for Tangwan, and his solo lane partner in Toad is trying to desperately run away, but they've run out of space. They're caught between the two giant pillars of AL's turrets, and they have routed this flank, they have routed this fight, they have routed this game. Ace, anyone's legend.
LGD look for the thing that their comp is set to do. Flank angles onto the Lucian. Even with finding it, they just don't have the damage. Everybody's way too separated. Again, this is why we get so concerned about the draft coming in, because this Wukong, this Ahri, this Renekton, they want to find the flank angles on these fights, and while they find them, that's all well and good. Xiaoya doesn't get set up to be able to do anything off of that. Flandra does a great job of being able to zone him away from this fight. So much for your Serpent's Fang and your LDR. The Casante's running you down anyways. Who cares? As Xiaoya gets absolutely bursted, Tarzan's on a side quest to take down the support. And again, even though you have that good flank, you just don't really have the follow-through because Tungyuan, Xiaoya, like, they're all going to be on different pages in these exchanges. AL can easily run down the rest of LGD, and if there was a fight that might have sealed the entire game, that might have been it.
In a game so reliant on the mid-game and a snowball for both of our comps, this did feel like a potential nail-in-the-coffin scenario. AL now break open that gold lead to about 3.5 thousand. They're also on Chemtech Soul Point, which they will have access to at about the 25-minute mark. Don't need to do much more but wait for that mark unless they want to get a little frisky and start testing their damage output. That's a culling onto YCX from Hope, but not much more to be found there. It's just going to be a bit of waiting here for AL and maybe trying to see how desperate LGD want to get to try and close this gold gap.
I do want to say, we were talking about this a bit in game number 1, and we talked about the head-to-head. Tongyuan's actually been pretty good in this series, but this is Shanks' game where he's stepped up. I understand some of that gold lead is a bit fictitious because it is, of course, a Twisted Fate, but his roams, his ability to find priority targets with gold cards, and his positioning generally in these fights with the, of course, pick onto Ahri as the main exception have been really, really solid. He's in a really good spot now to be actually a pretty big threat in the later part of the game. I think people very much misrepresent what TF is and say that he does no damage. Nobody who's ever played against a Fed TF believes he does no damage. That I can promise you. That champion will be hurting in the later part of this game, and for somebody who I think started the series a little slow, he's going to make an impact now.
Destiny met with an immediate charm. Has rapid fire cannon, by the way, too. So he's 3 items deep. These yellow cards are going to be coming from halfway across your screen. Didn't have to use any ults or flashes to get away from that pick play from Shanks. So a low value Destiny as he lands another yellow card and shows off exactly what K-Man's talking about. That's hung it down to about half HP. Resonating Strike lands here from Tarzan. Another yellow card down. Another Sonic Wave, just rinse and repeat, bullying LGD out of their own jungle. Tarzan will finally go through with Resonating Strike. It's another combo. Just on to Bird, all the tankiest member, but they have shoved LGD all the way back to their mid-tier 2.
I mean, it's 22 minutes into the game, and it feels like the map has just fallen apart completely for LGD. We said they lost one fight, and they really don't have any sort of tempo. I want you to look at your mini-map, and I want you to try and spot where the blue wards are. If you don't see anywhere, anywhere, especially near the half-point line, that's a problem. Blue Trinket dropped on the Baron. That's about as much as they got right about now, so that's a bit of a problem for LGD. I can't stress enough how important vision is when you're behind, and controlling it has been AL's specialty. LGD are walking blind into what could be a game-losing fight for them.
Their last tier 1 turret will fall to minions. Shanks is letting the mostly forgotten aspects of their team take care of that one. Top lane tier 1 down. Baron is up if they want to try and tease a take there to bring LGD into them. But again, I just think AL are playing for that dragon timer. They're below 2 minutes. They're getting their resets through to see if they get any decent item breaks. That's a big jump for BF Sword onto Hope. But they're just going to play that sort of press up style again, K-Man. Rinse and repeat. See if LGD get desperate, and then Chemtech Soul is where we really decide this game and potentially finish off the series for anyone's legend.
Definitely is looking that way. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty clean end here from AL, so long as they can set up around these objectives. Again, we'll see if they want to pressure out this Baron. I wouldn't expect them to. Chemsoul is just such a free objective for them to take. In about a minute, it forces LGD to walk into them, and they obviously have so many different disengage tools and ways to flank. But they're a greedy team. They might want a little bit more as they continue to dance. I think they understand that there are wards in this area. There's the one ward gone. Unfortunately, the one piece of vision that LGD might have had has been taken away. At this point, they can make their way down with that 5k gold lead, though. Just continue to walk up.
All right, Destiny to spot all members as LGD have taken up space towards the bot side of the river. AL need to work their way back through. Let's see exactly how strong they really are. Destiny Vision going to come down. There's rapid fired up yellow card. It's going to hit Hong. Decent little chip damage. Hope also expends the culling. AL are going to play for the mid wave first, and man, just allow this low-key Shanks damage that's becoming high-key by the second to chunk away LGD members. Xiaoya is already about a third out of HP, and Flaunt is flashing after him. Xiaoya already has spent the flash. Y6 Wild Growth flash. All of these disengage tools are coming off the board as Hong will drop. Tarzan further hunting. Ward hops forward. There's Sonic Wave, Resonating Strike. Down goes Xiaoya. And AL have gotten the picks they need to secure a Chemtech Soul at 25 minutes.
There's just no escape from this Anyone's Legend team, and this draft, they have been absolutely dynamic with the way that they've played these picks throughout the entire game, and it continues to grow their lead. I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, but LDR and Serpent's Fang into flashing away from the Cassante is maybe not how you play the MF in this particular game. It just seems to not be effective. This draft already set themselves up for a very difficult situation. This bullet time basically never allowed to be channeled in any team fight, and unfortunately that's been exactly what we've seen. The flashes coming down onto the MF and the fights being gone in an instant.
Okay, man, we already felt like the Cassante was really good this game because nobody could kill him. And I know it's obvious because they're up so much gold. But a Cassante with Chemtech Soul, wow. Flandra is actually unkillable. They're onto the Baron.
Yeah, and they get it. Like, there's not much you can do here. This is free. Hung's gonna be in the area. He's gonna try and get that push onto the bottom side. They want to try and trade for some turret, but with Baron going down with that soul, if you thought the combat was scary before, I mean, this is a team that is not only better at being able to play a lot of these picks and not only better at playing these side lanes, but they're probably better in the 5v5s as well because of their consistent setup and the rapid fire cannon coming in from the TF. It's level 16 versus level 13 in the mid lane. We could talk about the 4k gold deficit, but so much of that has been because Shanks has constantly been in the right spots on the map, and it's going to result in them being able to push top lane down for free as Tong Yuan just trades a consolation tower on the bottom side.
The assault onto the base imminent. Another long-distance yellow card pushes Birdall away from the turret. Baron up cannon minions, whacking onto the turret as well. Flandra's going to bring up a mid-wave, so the 4-1 in full effect here, and it's going to stretch LGD pretty thin. Will be able to protect their base for now, but there are more waves to come. This Baron power play is far from over.
Far from over. We saw what the 4-1 could do in the previous games. They're looking for another.
There we go. They're going for the stab engage. That's a really good bullet time. Finally, the Cyclone bullet time paired together just like strawberries and chocolate. And Shake's going to have a lot of time to think about that as he is into the fountain. There's a good shutdown. A little bit of light at the end of the tunnel there for LGD.
Okay, there is the pick that you're looking for, especially on the TF. That's really important because you do need to make sure you get one of those CC targets to prevent a counter engage. That's ideal. You probably need about 6 more of those engages in order to make this happen. Again, my biggest concern now is you can only do that once per fight. You better get a lot of value off of it, and while they were able to get that, there's no objective up to take at this point. They're just trying to delay. Hope is going to continue to push down onto the bottom side. Tarzan's going to be here to shadow him as well. If they're going to continue this push, even with Shanks dead, they can actually keep this going. Remember, Shanks is going to be able to get a lot of different places around the map with that Destiny if he wants.
He'll be back on the Rift right now. Dongguan is going for a top lane push of his own to get that wave as far away from the base, but the 4-1 has shifted towards the bot side. Flandra holding the mid wave cleanly. And Shanks is close enough for Destiny's gates to bring him into any sort of fight here. Hope with all the protections in the world going to start chipping away at more plates. Here's the Destiny pop vision onto all LGD members. Shanks daring anyone to section themselves out, single themselves out, but they'll just keep on chipping away at these LGD turrets.
I mean, it's clinical. It's exactly what you want to see. I will say, a 0 gold graph on the Baron so far. 30 seconds remaining. They might have some time to be able to pull that back, but the death, obviously the shutdown on Shanks was relatively important. We'll see if AL says, we don't care about the gold, we want the Nexus, because they're continuing to push on the bottom side. Tarzan, if he can land 1 Q, will be able to take this fight. LGD showing some patience for the first time this series, though. I might have cast her curse, though.
Tarzan, all I'm saying, man, oh, hold on. There's another snap engage from Hung, but this time Kyle has the peel to get himself back to safety. Yellow card going to land there onto Birdall. Colin going to come out. He's going to hold on to this Dominus, but the turret drops. Sonic Wave is Tarzan feeling frisky. Nope, not going to take that resonating strike. Dongguan, though, out of Spirit Rush charges, lands a frail charm onto Tarzan. And AL will move without the Baron power play to look for more turrets. They've got Elder in under 2 minutes if they like to play for that final killer blow, but they're not looking to slow down anytime soon. Birdall, Dominus pop, trying to contend with Flandra, but he's just too darn tanky.
I mean, AL continuing to pressure out. I think they recognize Hung used Cyclone on the Wukong. That's the most important ability in the game. If they don't have Cyclone, they have no engage. They have no way to actually be able to start this fight, especially if they're getting pushed into their own base. AL recognized this is a timer where, even though it shouldn't feel like they can push in, they have such a big resource advantage that they're going to continue to push further and further along. Again, Elder in just over a minute here. AL don't even really need to worry too much about a reset if they just keep forcing LGD into bad spots. I mean, it's going to be harder for them to find opportunities, and Hung might have overextended.
Oh, the Blast Cone comes through before the Dragon's Rage kick, but Tarzan gets it back up, kicks Hong into the wall. Wild Growth comes out to try and keep Hong topped off, heal everything from YCX, but the kitchen sink to keep him safe, and Hong will survive. Dongguan going to land a charm that brings Hope into the bullet time. Does have to dash back out to safety. Another stun lands here from Shanks. Tarzan really thought about going for that resonating strike, but he won't. LGD able to keep everyone alive. AL forced to reset for an Elder that's 30 seconds away.
That might be the greed that we were thinking of. That might have been a little bit ambitious. I really thought they were going to be able to kill Hung a little faster there on the collapse there with the Tarzan's Lee Sin and Shanks obviously being relatively fed, but he does a good job being able to use his resources to escape. He does have Cyclone up for this potential Elder fight, which is, again, the most important ability in the game. It's the only way for LGD to win these fights, but Flandra zoning the entire team off right now, and they're using it just for the Cassante.
Hey guys, his CP shield isn't even down yet. Finally, it's now down as the Hung engaged with the Cyclone. Does force Tarzan to flash. Flandra pretty low as well. Flash forward from Birdall. Does get the slice and dice through the polymorph. Flandra is down, but AL say to the hell with Elder. They want to end the series now.
Yeah, they were baiting in the entire time. They were trying to open up the base.
I don't know about
the minion wave's not there. They're going to be able to recall. I mean, they're going to be able to move their way over to Elder, but you basically just lost Flandra for nothing. Hung's going to stay in the area. A bit of a macro mistake there from AL, giving over quite a lot for basically nothing in return. It is some resources used from the side of LGD, but they're going to have at least a couple of these ultimates back up if they want to try and take this Elder flip, and they are missing their big tank on the top side for 30 more seconds.
It's definitely going to be hard to get Xiaoya a lot of usage out of this bullet time. Without that Cyclone, still about halfway away from its charge coming back up. LGD, though, know that Elder is their only lifeline. I like it. They're desperate. They have to go for it. They have the man advantage for now. Flandra already TP'd bot side, but they're just really afraid of where Tarzan is at, where all of AL are. Tarzan going to contend with the Elder on his own. Hope nearby as well. TP on the back side of the pit here. Birdall with a big shield. He's got the GA. He's popping the Dominus. Somehow AL have found themselves into a really precarious flip here. Tarzan, does he win the smite fight? No, it's Xiaoya that gets the Elder, and now Tarzan's 1 versus 5. Gets dropped. Birdall able to push away another AL member. Hope on the back line does not kill Tagwan. The charm with the bellows breath from Elder gets a huge shutdown. AL have completely thrown their lead away.
There was one way back into this game for LGD, and they have found it. They win the Elder Flip 4v5, recognizing that Cassante can't make his way back in time. You're right, that TP was used onto the bottom side, and LGD take full advantage of it. AL with a massive macro mistake that is being punished to the point where they have completely lost their gold lead. LGD not only have the Elder Dragon available for just under a minute, or just under 2 minutes more, but they're starting to get into a scary spot. We get a replay of how this happens. Cassante is not here. AL are so aggressive in terms of their positioning. This is a straight-up flip between Tarzan and Hung. Somehow, someway, it's actually the misfortune. It's Xiaoya who ends up making up for some of his early series mistakes by securing the biggest objective in this entire game. And now we're at a point where there's enough damage on LGD to get some of these executes. Now, for a minute 20, that Elder is available. They're going to make their way up to Baron, and this is the time to take it. This is their way back into the game.
Xiaoya is one of the wackiest MF builds I've ever seen, but he is now up to full crit with the Phantom Dancer completed. With Elder still in their control, there's no world AL can ever stop this Baron. A minute's time where LGD are going to have Elder and Baron, usually the death sentence of a game, that AL now have to contend with. Oh my god, the bullet time. Why not? Oh, can Tagwan get close enough for the Elder reset? No. Shanks is able to survive. That's a huge minion wave. I think LGD might try and ride this through to end the game here.
I think they recognize without these buffs, they're going to be a lot weaker. They're trying to end now. Is this an overextension, though?
I mean, look at all these minions. They're finally getting dissipated here. Another wave's coming up behind. AL have to all out stall, with the Grubs providing enough safety for another wave to come up here. Elder is slowly ticking down. AL are going to spring the trap once they know the Elder comes offline, and LGD have known that they've run out of time. Destiny down. Does Shanks commit to the flank here? No. They're just going to let Elder dissipate and go towards the mid lane.
I mean, the base is broken open. Shanks is looking to try and catch the wave, but everything is back in time. This bot lane inhibitor tower might just fall to the minion wave that had been crashing into it, but I mean, how can I think of anything other than LGD completely taking control of this game? Look at the gold lead now for Xiaoya. I still think it can be a little bit difficult for him to play consistently in these team fights. AL is not out of this by any stretch, but if LGD wanted an avenue back into this game, they have found it. Minute 30 still left on this Baron buff. They have so many stats under them at this point. I don't think you can really wait for some of these fights. I really want to see more aggressive gameplay come in from LGD. They are doing a really good job of setting up around this bot side. They need to keep it going.
Where will AL really try and make the stand? At this point in the game, a mid-tier 2 turret isn't all that inherently valuable. It's just full defense mode from AL. You called it, K-Man. They're waiting for all these buffs to come off of LGD and then try and flip this game back into their favor. Chemtech Soul is still insanely valuable in these late fights. Just when does AL decide they really want to scrap once more? Is it going to be their captain, Tarzan? Out of the jungle that looks for it. Flandra already down to about half HP. Another minion wave is gone. They've got one more at the Baron.
Yeah, he has made his way out. He's not going to look for the flank. That's going to be the tower going down. LGD going to utilize this Baron for 30 more seconds to try and get this inhibitor. I don't think they have the push, but they're certainly going to try and get it.
Xiaoya going to take a decent chunk there from Hope, who still has a lot of damage with the range, extra range Melio gives him. Bot side, the last Baron wave. This is the last one they'll get in the mid lane, but Tarzan and Flandra cut down the bot lane one. And this is the Baron going away. Do we see AL try and spring the trap now? LGD are a bit sectioned off away from each other, but they don't feel comfortable doing it. Their base is still broken into. The super minions pouring in. We are going to play for a second Elder in a game that we thought was all but over.
Importantly, though, a second Elder with the base broken open for LGD with supers pushing in onto the top side. It's going to take a ton of tempo for AL to be able to push out that top wave to the point where they can contest this Elder consistently. And notably, the mid lane inhibitor has respawned for LGD at this point. And so they absolutely have a wave control advantage in this instance to be able to set up around this Elder. This is the game. Whoever wins this fight, whoever gets this objective, they will win everything. There are plenty of ways for LGD to play off that combo. This bullet time is going to make or break everything. If AL can stay away from it affecting too many members, they can still win this fight with the comp that they have, but LGD have the tools and they have the gold to be able to take this one to AL and make the comeback very real.
Such a tough spot for LGD. They were such a scary threat those last couple of minutes, but they still need to recognize they are into a Chemtech Soul team. The gold is close enough that they need to make the plays, but Togglon and Hog have found Tarzan. He immediately goes into the G8. You can eat a yellow card as the Coley comes out onto Hog. The Wild Growth won't save him. Tarzan is able to dash back out to safety, and without Hog, LGD don't have a shot in the world at Elder, but AL don't care about Elder. They've got Shanks flanking with the yellow card. Bernal tries to go after Hope. The bullet time won't find its mark because Shanks stuns and kills off Xiaoya. Bernal gonna drop into the GA, and all of LGD are scattered towards the wind. Tarzan might have been picked off. The GA to rescue him. AL mess around and nearly throw away game 3, but they are going to accomplish their goal, bring out the brooms, and sweep LGD out of the playoffs.
One heart attack later, and AL is pushing down the mid lane. Tarzan baits everybody with the Guardian Angel on his side. The true king of the jungle shows up once again, and AL are happy to take the fight to LGD. It may have been close, but close doesn't count. AL are going to charge down the base.
Ooh, it was a scary, scary prospect for the last couple of minutes, but it is nonetheless an AL 3-0 sweep. They move on in the lower bracket.
Oh. My heart, Slayer, it's a pounding right now.
I was not prepared for that. Usually we're like prepared for it, right? Like we see it coming, like it's a close game. That was usually we're used to the heart rates going up. We're not. The level that we jumped is my problem. Like I was chilling, and then we're just at like 150. All right.
I mean, the GA obviously is massive. My question is, what happened with the Wukong in that fight? Like, why are we're obviously extending for Tarzan. I think that itself, like burning the GA is great. After that, just overextending into the jungle, going right back in, and then not having any sort of reset. Oh, we got a little bit of a Shanks on the trophy. Just a little bit of.
Listen, we're both pretty sports pilled, K-Man. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot. Thank you, producer. I was about to say, there's a lot of superstitions around touching certain trophies before you've won anything, but I forgot. I believe that was, he took the captain token from Xiaoya and then put it into the trophy. I think that's how that works. That was something they did last year as well.
Of course, you know, a symbol of the
Of your
teams
victory.
that they have conquered on their way to victory here. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the series went the way that it did. We got a glimpse of hope for a couple of seconds. Well, we got quite a few glimpses of many different versions of hope in this series, the good and the bad, I would say, in a couple of these team fights. But at the end of the day, AL's execution was a little bit more clinical. I think the draft in Game 3 was tough. I think you always needed that bullet time to land in a perfect situation. They got it in a big fight. The MF getting Elder Dragon is massive, and then eventually, obviously, you hit a point where you just have to try and get it again, and they couldn't. The Wukong and the MF were a bit desynced with their engages, and it cost the entire game.
That is... It's just so funny to me, like, the closest this series got was right at the end, it felt like, unfortunately, with that game. Oh, man. Well, LGD, you had a very happy moment. Here's the thing. We didn't necessarily get a touch on it because the game went pure chaos mode towards the end. But for LGD here, K-Man, I really hope they hold their heads high. Listen, it sucks to get swept. It sucks to get really outmatched in an entire series. But I just don't. These players did not think. It was a dream that they could get to Group Ascend at the start of the split. It was a dream that they could be a top 6 team in the LPL. They've accomplished so much, and their biggest prize, again, I still say, wasn't making playoffs to me. It's that they have now earned the right to play Premier LPL for the biggest split of the year next year. It is going to do wondrous things for some of these players. We may look back years down the line, K-Man, on some, bona fide superstars, not just with LGD, but these other teams that have made it to Group Ascend because they were able to get into that highest level and kickstart their careers into being future legends of the LPL.
I want to make it clear, like, LGD lose here today because AL randomly drop a series to WE when they're not supposed to, when they have to run into them in lower bracket. LGD is guaranteed top 5th, 6th. Like, they're a top 6 team, placement-wise. Like, and I know that this is a little too far out into the future, but you're absolutely right. Like, LGD are going to be in Ascend going into the next split. They're going to have the ability to continue to grow. They get 15 championship points from this. And maybe I'm too early in the year to be thinking about championship points. How fun would it be to see an LGD team in the regional qualifier? Like, to have a chance to be able to go to... Like, that's the kind of run that they made. They beat Thunder Talk to get here. They beat, a very, very good Weibo Gaming team to get here as well. And this is what they get. They get top 5. They get top 6. They get championship points. They get to show that they are a team that can compete. And, again, this is hopefully the weakest version of LGD that we're going to see all year long. The hope is that they continue to get better game over game now that they get the hyperbolic time chamber that is Group Ascend.
And not to take away, because LGD is the one in this series, but I again just want to branch this out to a bigger conversation because we've now lost all of our former Nirvana teams, right, at this point. EDG, LGD, and Thunder Talk are now all out. All of those guys are in the same position to LGD now. Maybe not with the championship points that you gave me some flashbacks to. It's a little too early for that, K-Man, for sure. But all of those teams, all the 15 of those players are now going to get a shot to enter that hyper chamber, and that's going to be such a fun thing to look forward to in Split 3. Now honing back into this series, I hate to say Tarzan will not be a 24 out of 24 unanimous player of the game vote. Maybe he wins player of the game here. The KDA once again goes brazy. But this game got a little bit away from both Tarzan and AL towards the end of it. If Tarzan doesn't have a GA, by the way, they lose the game. They lose the game on that pick that Hung finds.
And if Hung does have a GA, they win the game. Like,
true.
Straight up. Like, that was the whole difference, is that the Wukong goes in and goes all in on the Lee Sin, pops the GA, and he himself does not have the Guardian Angel to be able to make that trade worth it. So, unfortunately, that just kind of ends up being the big difference there. That's the wallet diff, and just wasn't meant to be. Tarzan, I think, still has a good case for player of the game, if only just because I think he was such a big reason why they were so good in the early game and why this game got out of control so fast, as we see from this level 4 fight that instantly wins them the early game and makes this much more difficult to play out from that point onwards. But you're right. I mean, there were mistakes in the mid game here. Him overextending and basically leaving his top laner out to dry, although, Flandra's TP onto the bot side and dying right before the dragon fight was already bad enough as it was. You know, those were mistakes. I think Shanks would be your other candidate in this game on the Twisted Fate. Thought he had a pretty good game, did make a mistake pretty early on in the game to try and pick out Tung Yuan and get caught, but they won the 4v4 after that anyways, so how much did it really end up mattering? Either way, overall, just a good series from AL. For the most part, I would say 90 to 95% of this series was them dominating, and yeah. I think that's enough for me to feel good.
And regardless, Tarzan is the player of the series, and now, in this form, it's going to make whoever they see in that next round, lower round 3, I believe we're up to at this point.
Yeah.
A very fun matchup. He will be going against either Junja or Shun. So for me personally, if we go back to all-pro votes, those are 2 all-pro junglers for me. It's going to be a fun one. Okay, man, I am curious, you know, looking forward to that regardless of the opponent. How much more inspired confidence-wise are you about AL in that matchup off of this series now, off of how they look today?
I think it's a little 50-50 on like whether I feel better about them or whether I feel the same. I don't feel worse for sure, but
no.
I think there are a lot of things to feel encouraged about in the sense that they found their identity in games 1 and 2, and they executed on that identity really effectively, right? Especially in game number 1, they knew exactly what they wanted to draft. They went back to comfort, and it really worked out for them. That gives me confidence that they understand what they want to be moving forward and the kind of, you know, team and play style that they want to go towards moving forward. The worry is that I still am concerned about them off of those picks, and especially if you're going to be playing some of these top-tier teams, you're not just going to be getting 3 games against JDG or BLG. Like, they're going to get at least one of them, right? Like, you would imagine that you're going to have a bag that you can go into in Game 4, in Game 5, and I don't know if I'm sold that that's a team that's going to be able to do what they want to do in Games 4 and 5 just yet, but they showed in this series that in Games 1, Games 2, when they get the comps that they like, they still are just as effective as they were, you know, when they were the number 1 seed going into playoffs and split number 1.
Yeah, I am maybe a little bit more confident, mainly because for me in this series, like some of the weakest things that we were most worried about with AL were really improved today. Hope being one of them. Hope plays a pretty phenomenal series. He does get his 2 comfort champions, but he was pretty good today. Most importantly, I'm glad that we saw Kyle not get put on Seraphine today. Didn't play Nami. Yes, puts the Melio bag in the game 3, but gets to play Bard. Like, the Bard game was super fun. Gets really unlocked to pair with Tarzan. Again, that's the bread and butter of AL, so I hope that continues over. I hope Big Way continues that game plan over up against the BLG, up against the JDG, because that sort of style has been the way that they have taken down both of those teams, historically looking back towards last year. We'll have to see. Of course, we still need to see the opponent that AL will face off against. Our matchup tomorrow is just such a heater. Our 2 first stand representatives in the lower bracket, BLG, JDG, one of them goes home. One of them does not make it to back-to-back internationals. The other one gets a chance to make it to the next one. It's a long road forward in this lower bracket. It's going to be a fun one nonetheless here. Closing up shop on our broadcast, another sweep from us up against an LGD, up against somebody here, K-Man, but we always have to end the broadcast shouting out some important people. So I would like to give a very specific thank you to our 2 Elite Coffee supporters, that being Aaron Soup and Mong. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an English LPL product every single day. Huge shout out to Aaron Soup and Mong. Also, though, a shout out to all you that have been sticking with us across today, across all of the LPL Split 2. It has been awesome, and the matchups will only get better and better. K-Man, final thoughts, my friend, before we close this thing off?
Final thoughts. One of BLG or JDG will be equal in terms of placement to LGD Gaming by the end of this split.
I thought you were just going to say the same thing I said, and then, yeah, that's true. That'll be a fun, you know, someday maybe we'll get a trivia question based on that, K-Man. What former Group Nirvana team tied AL and PLG or JDG off of the record? That's a fun one. K-Man, it's always a pleasure to rock the Slayman Rocks with you, my friend. I don't think this is the we'll see. Maybe we'll show up on your guys' streams of some of these later series. Who knows? But definitely we'll see Ice Fire Eyed behind the sticks on production. Awesome working with you again, my friend. That'll close it out. Make sure to be back here same time as you had today. PLG JDG. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you guys there.